It's still a little bit cold out here. So. It's supposed to be like 7 degrees, doesn't actually feel like it. Video. Yeah, it's fucking cold out here. Oh, I thought it was supposed to be very warm today. It's cold. So it's not that warm. Yeah, the next day it's cold. It's supposed to be 13 degrees tomorrow, which is very warm. It's cold down here right now. So you see there, you see the boots disappeared. They disappeared on the day that the day of delivery. And what they keep trying to deliver is the screen from America. Because I bought a screen for the A50 for like 50 pounds because the gift cards were for Amazon in America and in the US, and they keep trying to deliver the screen, but the delivery for the shoes, for the boots I bought, which were like, I don't know, 80 pounds or something, that disappeared on delivery day. Yeah, but the screen they keep trying to deliver. And the reason why is because the screen is electronic equipment. Yeah, the screen is electronic equipment. It's supposed to be a replacement screen for the A50 with the frame. Yeah, so that's the difference. See, it came from America. It's a screen, and they keep. Sometimes I get text messages that they want to deliver the screen. I don't know where from. I don't know if the post office has it. I don't know anything about it. Didn't even check into it. But you see, that's the difference. Yeah, it's electronic equipment. They want to deliver the screen, and the boots disappeared on delivery day. And I got a notice of shoes a few years ago of a delivery from China for shoes. They said that they sent shoes from China and it was waiting for me at the post office. They're fucking wild, man. Yeah, so they said that it was kind of the same thing like the screen. They kept telling me that. I only got like one text message. Something about Chinese delivery from China for shoes or something. Fucking wild, man. Alright, let's go ahead and do a lot of fast speed charging. I'm drinking this juice. I think I pulled it out. It's poison now. Definitely poison now. It's not juice anymore. Food virus. through a wire here, which is new. This is new, brand new. Let's see how long it lasts. The black one is done. It's disconnecting too bad. I can't even use it because it disconnects so fast. So I'm going to replace the black one right now. Get rid of it. It hurts a little bit. One more mithril wire. This is the last one.
Did you fix my pickaxe, by the way?
No.
Alright, we'll go ahead and get going here. It's fucking cold out here. It doesn't feel like 7 degrees. It feels like 5. It's supposed to get warm this fucking week or something. You know? That's what it says. So this latest patch does seem to charge slower. Yeah? I mean, there's definitely some hiccup. So I am still going to try and get that laptop fired up to be able to flash 12 and see what it does on 12. Because I don't see any point in having 13. It looks different. It looks like they made a lot of changes to the bootloader. They made changes to a lot of stuff as far as visuals. Loading animations and stuff like that is different. But I don't see any security improvement at all. It does the same thing the other one did. The previous patch did. And, that December 13 one was okay. Actually, it wasn't bad. I just wanted to see if the USB problem would go away. But it's the wire. It's the wire that's causing the problem. It's not the phone at all. Like I said, they solved this USB issue with the S10. You can plug in whatever you want. You can even overpower the USB board and it still works. The phone will still work. The USB port will work as well. They fixed it many years ago. The issues with USB connectivity. Any kind of if you plug in something that's maybe not supposed to plug in, they fixed that. So that's the reason why I got the patch. I was like, 2 gigs. It's probably going to make a lot of changes, and it looks like they replaced a lot of stuff. It's just that it does the same thing. It seems to charge slower. I think it's it's cold, man. Fucking hell. I gotta go across the bridge today. Do some washy-washy. It said it was going to be warm, and it isn't. SIM switching is still a problem. I found more service calls, 61 and 57 for connectivity, but it doesn't work. It's even worse. Yeah, so with the December patch I had, 51 and 54 got that loading animation to go away, so I can SIM switch. And found 61, 67, I don't know, whatever. Found some additional service calls, but it doesn't seem to do anything at all to get SIM switching to work. Damn, it's cold. Shit. I'm gonna walk across the bridge and it's freezing shit. So it's definitely an issue, like I said, because they keep putting out fake software. They keep putting fake OTA updates on that server. It's not Samsung doing it; it's someone over here. It's not Samsung that's doing it. It's someone over here that's putting these OTA updates on the server. It's pretty bad. Make a friends of message. I'm doing something good. So device care, like I said, device care had fast charging disabled. You would toggle that crap on, leave the app, and it would be disabled again when you go back to it. Device care was doing this on all the versions that I had. I don't even know where they could be storing this code to make it default to turning off fast charging. But it's you would go enable it, turn on fast charging. And if you leave the app, you'd go back in it and it would be off. So the service call 108 and 117 fixed it. 108 and 117 service call fixed it. I don't know. Again, I don't know how they would be doing that because the other service calls should clear out any hang-ups on that app. Maybe it's app ops. Maybe it's app ops that's doing it. I don't know. I gotta look to see. But we fixed that with service call 108 and 117. So now it's always enabled, even after restarts. I gotta look at. But I haven't actually been able to figure out why it goes. It'll tell you that it's super fast charging. That's what it says, and then it will go to charging. It just says charging. It doesn't say super fast charging. Whereas the A52 says super fast charging all the time. They did another protest. So the A52 will say super fast charging all the time, and it stays that way. You know, unless there's something going on with charging on the wire charger or something like that. Unless it doesn't like the charger, you plug it in over the wire. So I don't know why the S22 is will say super fast charging, and then it goes down to charging. It'll still say the same, you know, it'll give you the same time to finish charging, but it doesn't stay on super fast charging. It doesn't stay on that. Looks like they did some more Russian revolutionary protesting because there's got something else going on today. Incredible. Incredible. Some more Russian revolutionary protesting as always. Yeah, keeping the Popo busy. The Popo's always busy with these protesters. They're doing some more Russian revolutionary protesting as always. It's cold. I go all the way across the bridge just to poop again. It's fucking food. I'm so tired of it. Well, I mean, it's okay. It's just it's got occasionally it's got this shit in it that makes you fucking gas like a volcano or a geyser, you know, one of those hot water geysers, you know. Because whatever the fuck they put in the food, that's what's annoying. It's good food in the sense that it's the right stuff. You know, they definitely bring some good stuff. You know, as of late. But you know, it's got this fucking gas-inducing fucking poison in it sometimes. You know, they spray it on. I don't fucking know what they do, but it's pretty horrific. There's so much of it, it's looking for my ass. You know? Sometimes. Okay, let's go in here and go across the bridge a little bit, see what's going on.
This train has 10 coaches. Platform 4 for the 1505 Southeastern service to Hayes via Gatford Bridge. There are usually many seats available on this train.
It might start raining, so we've got to go now. Go now, then we can wait.
The next train to come on platform 5 will be the 1508 Southeastern service to Hayes.
Over here before it starts to rain. junction is closed. Can't see.
But the guys.
We can't go down there.
Yeah.
It's got a maintenance mode. This latest patch could be why it's so big. I'm not sure what the maintenance mode is for. It probably doesn't even run because I don't have anything installed. Just like emergency mode, I guess. Just like emergency mode, I guess they have maintenance mode. Apparently, you can lock the user 0. Give the phone to someone else, and it doesn't have your data on it. Meaning that if you are user 0 like I am, you can put it in maintenance mode, lock it with a password or something, and in maintenance mode it doesn't show anybody your data. Stupid. It's stupid, you know. It's useless. I don't know why they would do that. You know, it's your phone. You're the one that's going to be using it unless you want to give it to your kids, I guess. If you got kids, you might want to let them play games on your phone or something, but they usually got tablets and shit. They give them tablets and stuff. So I'm not sure what the maintenance mode is for. I mean, I guess it can be useful to some people. My shoulder hurts. Maybe things are missing something that's not good.
You buy two tickets and you get 2 CDs. How many forums go? You get 4 CDs.
Yeah, my ankle, my right foot really hurts. I don't know if it was the socks or probably was one of the pair of the socks that I had. My ankle really started hurting, like binding almost. So it was something I could put in the socks. I say that's the reason why you don't want to wear socks. They just, the motherfuckers, this rat goes bumping in the night. We'll take your socks off your feet and put something in your socks. That's, or your pants. Like in my case, the trousers. So I don't know what the hell they do with my ankle. My right ankle really binds. Binding a lot. Stiff. It's got a stiffness. It's got a stiffness to it.
Vauxhall, Clapham Junction, Birdsfield, Teddington, and Strawberry Hill. This train has 8 carriages. The train at platform 1 is the 1524. This train has 8 carriages. Please note, some of the lists at Vauxhall and Wimbledon are currently out of service. Please speak to a member of staff if you need further assistance. Vauxhall, Clapham Junction, Birdsfield, Wimbledon, Rains Park, New Walden, Norbiton, Kingston, Hampton Wick, Teddington, and Strawberry Hill. This train has 8 carriages. Please note, some of the lists at Vauxhall and Wimbledon are currently out of service. Please speak to a member of staff if you need further assistance.
Our network is controlled by uniforms and
train for the 15:35 service to Weymouth via Winchester and Poole via Winchester, calling at Woking, Winchester, Southampton Airport Parkway and Southampton Central, where the train separates. Please travel in the front 5 carriages of the train for Brockenhurst, Bournemouth, Branksome, Cardston, Poole, Hamworthy, Wareham, Wool, Dorchester South and Weymouth. Please travel in the back 4 carriages of the train for Tottenham, Ashurst and Forest, City Road, Brockenhurst, Bray, New Wilton, Kingston Admiral, Christchurch, Brookdown to Watkin, Bournemouth, Branksome, Cardston and Poole. Please note, some of the lifts at Brockenhurst are currently out of service. Please keep the relevant staff if you need further assistance. The train at platform 4 is the 15:33 service to Guildford via Fulham and Stoke calling at Oxford, Southampton, Earlsfield, Wimbledon, Surbiton, Inchley, Claygate, Oxshott, Gordon and Stoke Davenant, Effingham Junction, Horsley, Brandon, London Road and Guildford. This train has 8 carriages. Please note, some of the lifts at Oxford and Wimbledon are currently out of service.
Has almost been represented from in some way in the movie, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you've seen so many hidden references of just little things, but I take that as a positive because they are honoring what people know.
It's one thing that, you know, you've done before, and then you have time to put in. Have you got the keys? I want to go. That one was one minute. Olivia, you need toilet roll. Yeah, and that one's the next. You need any keys. Look, I need toilet roll. Stay with me. I'm going to do it. You have to wait here. You need first. Don't worry about that. Keep that up. Get toilet roll and keep the keys. You don't do that. One minute, of course.
If you are traveling to Blitz, Roland's Castle, or Bedhampton, you will need to travel with 6 carriages of the train.
96 control.
Platform 16 is the 15:45 service to Helmsley.
Can you please arrange for someone to open the boot store for me? I've got myself and 4 visitors. We're going to be there in about 2 minutes. Over.
Richmond, St Margaret's, Cheltenham, Witton, and Helmsley.
Thank you.
This train has 10 carriages.
Charlie 9.
If you are traveling to Helmsley, you need to travel
Right.
with 8 carriages.
Sorry, no, I'm thinking. Oh, this is something.
Are currently out of service. Please speak to the member of staff if you need further assistance. Your transport to London travelling. Certain bus services on the Bakerloo, Central, Circle, District, Hanson City, Jubilee, Metropolitan, Northern, Piccadilly, Victoria, and Waterloo and City lines. There is currently a good service operating on all other lines. Platform 3 for the 15:50 service to Woking via Weybridge, calling at Vauxhall, Clapham Junction, Bilsfield, Wimbledon, Surbiton, Esher, Fashion,
There's so many sub areas in Orlando. So I don't know, man. I mean, if you're saying stay out of New York and LA, I agree completely. Stay out of Chicago, I agree completely. But like, that's the standard I've always had. I would never want to live in LA because the rat race and everything involved. So it's really a tough situation to kind of like. At the end of the day, I'm an individualist. By the standard of like city, maybe Chicago, something like that.
Orlando feels like all of Orlando's a suburb. That's the way it feels to me. It's like all of it is whereas I saw people in the chat saying LA's spread out. LA's spread out, but it's still shit that's spread. It's shit that's spread everywhere. Like all whenever you drive through LA, I will say this: when you drive through large cities,
And you still have that central identifiable kind of area in LA. Whereas Orlando, I don't know where the. I mean, obviously everything's built around Disney and Universal. Those are it's so hard to I've heard the whole argument like that. I agree with that.
I would not want to live in like East Orlando. I would want to live there. That's like the one. But other than that, let's put you
So that was a tough one, right? If they were playing one, and again, that's going to be a
West Barclays and Woking. This train has 8 carriages. Please note, some of the links at Vauxhall and Wimbledon are currently out of service. Please speak to Reverend Staff if you need further assistance.
Alexander Shabilsky for fun. Guys, high five. You're on the left side, you're on the right. Waffle for 15 shekels, unrelated. Please tell me Chris is going to cosplay Gavin for this week, like Chicken Frost. East Coast Toasty Boy for fun. This Orlando, grew up there. You know what, like the back of my hand, be sure to go back there. This first right, one last thing I want to talk about. Marvel. Real quick, guys, we let you guys remind it down. So, for the next topic, we'll be live on
Yeah, constipated. Constipated steaming shit. American shit. It's gross.
But I did want to talk about Marvel.
The other fuck we ate
Obviously,
yesterday, I can't even
Marvel
kiss the episode.
did not get off to a very good
You
start.
can imagine. Transgender poison is very heavy in that vegan burger.
As a worldwide box.
The vegan burger they
And now
got
it looks
is
like Marvel is
badly
getting back, and
poisoned.
some people are not very happy. They're doing their best to shut down leaks, to shut down spoilers.
But the fries is okay
Take
sometimes.
action to expose Marvel leaks, to spoil and fan-free. And this isn't just like, oh, Raina Dan's gay. They're doing their best job to try to get the information of people to spread things about fan. To be clear, this is not like your
So like I said, this tag that I have with the oyster in the Amazon cart, it's a big problem because, like I said, this commie is withholding money and other things because he's got a bag. So he can afford to be a commie because he can afford to hold things just like he would during communism in, say, Eastern Europe and Russia. Because now he's got a bag. So he keeps on giving himself excuses to exercise communism, which is basically withholding money or whatever they're supposed to free up, by stealing a bag and holding that as a counter, as a counter to it's gonna rain, as a counter to me as an individual. You understand? So it's kind of like exercising communism in a way, in that they get to continue to withhold property or funds from an individual, right? Which is exactly what they did during communism by appropriation, consolidating assets and property into a commune, which is what they had in The Last of Us. Though back then, in The Last of Us, you just struggled to survive, which is basically living in a commune because it's easier. Yeah? So they found a way to exercise communism by stealing a bag, what is communism? Well, the state or a state representative withholding property or funds from a certain individual. That's what communism is. Understand? Communism in Russia was a Stalinist approach to consolidating property and making it state-owned. Understand? Like I said before, this includes money, property, farmhouses, farm animals, grain, turning it into state property. So in this situation, the commie found a way to exercise communism. That's what I mean when I go to the Strand and I say I'm going to go enjoy some communism. So the commie this time around found a way to exercise communism by stealing a bag. And that gives him an excuse to withhold property or funds. Understand? That's what's going on. So it's kind of like the same scenario that they had in Russia with the Stalinist approach to property and funds and grain, farmhouses and farm animals and whatever they had in there. Except that this time they found a way to excuse this communist appropriation by stealing a bag, which is also communism in a way, because they're in possession of stolen property, bag or no bag. So it's very similar to what they did in Russia, in Eastern Europe in general, Ukraine included. Now, like what they did in Ukraine and Russia never happened in Romania. It didn't get up to that level. It didn't get up to that level in Romania. We had in Romania, I think, farmland that was based on a commune ownership, meaning that whoever was living in the town had access to this farmland. I don't know. Obviously, it would be a lot of land for a single family to own. Not every season they would be able to farm anything. So it was, I guess, easier to make farmland part of the town commune because, different people might want to plant different stuff and it's a lot of land. Some people might not be able to farm at all because they're not physically capable. So this time around, the commie found a way to be a communist by stealing a bag, which apparently gives him the excuse to withhold property or funds.
It doesn't really affect people that aren't looking to go see that.
So it's very similar to what they did in Russia, except in there they just did it just because they could. In Russia, they exercised communism just because they could. Just because they could confiscate grain, or they could confiscate farmland, or farmhouses, or farm animals, whatever they had. And there they didn't need an excuse. Their excuse was the revolution, right? So this time around, they found a way to do it by stealing, exercise communism by stealing the bag, which is you're still back to square one. With or without a bag, you're still stealing stuff.
Having a new character appear or Ace of Death.
Yeah, I mean, to get communism, you got to steal stuff.
But it was the way in which they were doing it. The fact that you had
Which is basically
Big Abby Pump
the biggest problem in the third world
story, and then you had the
is theft.
as the character.
Because eventually they get to a level of criminality in the third world where they just steal from each other anyway.
And,
Yeah, communism is you can say theft.
let's just eliminate.
You got to start by stealing to have communism. You understand?
If you were to
Yeah, if you started communism by stealing a bag this time around,
caveat, if you were to
but it's still the same. You still started with stealing.
you just assume if we're eliminating what we said, hey, Tom Cruise is going to end up being
To get to where you are right now,
right. Yeah.
withholding property or funds, you still have to start by stealing something, which was the bag.
It doesn't matter. It didn't matter that we assumed what
The difference in Russia was that they didn't have to do this. They just did it because the revolution, right?
Yeah, you need to
And that was all the reasons that they needed.
that you can live up to.
And the revolution was reason enough.
So, I mean, knowing that there were some convenience of a film.
Anyway. Tired,
But
man.
this is Disney.
It's too much walking.
He's supposed to listen to what last week anyway, that he's deal. Take her for $2. Orlando is the Orlando Magic. Rax is for $5 for flying guy.
So in a way, communism is an excuse to steal. Now remember, these Russian revolutionaries that did the Russian Revolution hated the upper class, even though their standard of living was no different than the rest of Asia and most of Europe anyway. And they were just as poor as anybody in Asia. These Russian revolutionaries that were also Asiatic, third world mongrels, decided that if anybody had anything better than what they had, they would just take it. Understand? This is what happens during war. You have they did it in Iraq to some extent. They did it in Afghanistan, even though there's not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of stuff in Afghanistan and Iraq to take. But this was the idea behind the Russian revolutionaries. Mongrels from across the border decided that anybody that had anything better than what they had to be confiscated, consolidated in a commune. Understand? It's an excuse to steal, which is what third worlders do. Now, oftentimes they steal from each other because that's what they do. You have so what you had in Russia was just third worlders, which was whatever was left from the Mongolian Empire, that saw something that was better than what they had, and they just decided to take it. Right? And that's what they're doing here and in America.
They've done a lot for us. They've sent us a lot of units here to Team Cameras headquarters, and that's going to help us get up and running and everything. Appreciate them and appreciate all of you. So another one's in the books. We'll be live in about an hour on Location Outpost, and then later tonight, Fortnite, and then I close tonight out with Cobra Cast IRL, the most original name for any live stream in the history of us. I did not hear about video live for that. But Ryan, got anything? Take her for $2. Remember the Rise of Skywalker leaks you already got? Yes. Oh yeah. And you know what hurt that movie? Yeah. You know what hurt that movie? It wasn't the leaks. It was a bad movie. It was a bad movie. And so, all right, guys. Thank you so much for all the love. Not really.
Like I said, I'm not.
Have a great night. A great day.
I'm mad about it. Like I said, they're doing us a service. We proved that they're Asiatic. We proved that they are not white. We definitely proved that they are Jews, and that basically, we're allowed to fester and foment at the top. Clearly, we can see that. And there's no white people among them. It's a service. I see it as a service. I don't necessarily see it as a disadvantage that they were allowed to fester at the top, or that the DoD was kissing their ass, or that the military-industrial complex I don't actually see it as a disadvantage that the military-industrial complex was kissing their ass or saving their ass in World War II, or giving them the tech companies of Google, Microsoft, and Apple. And I don't see it as a disadvantage because now you can prove that these people are not white. They are Jews. They are definitely mixed, definitely Asiatic. Yeah, which is precisely the type of people that did the Russian Revolution. It's precisely who did the Russian Revolution. An Asiatic horde. It's not. I don't see it as a disadvantage that this group was allowed to fester at the top as much as they did. I don't see it as a disadvantage that the DoD was kissing their ass. I don't see it as a disadvantage that the British Army didn't knock them off. Yeah, I don't see it as a disadvantage that the military-industrial complex gave them every tech company in the world, which is also now Chinese. You know, it's got a lot of Chinese links now these days. I don't see it as a disadvantage because now you can see who's white and who isn't. And it's the same Asiatic fucking horde that was in Russia 100 years ago. Yeah, that's at the forefront of this framing gig. Who the fuck else would it be? I don't see it as a disadvantage because it definitely proves who's white and who isn't, which is what matters in the end anyway.
Anyway, let's go ahead and see what we got. 69%. Alright, man. It's cold, man. Very fucking cold as well. It's raining right now. Yeah.
Notice too with this crowd is that they really don't like being in the service of a Gentile. It's I guess it's some principle. You know, it's also probably the reason why they constantly steal. If you come across this Russian revolutionary crowd, that's probably the reason why they constantly steal. And they do not like being in the service of a Gentile. They don't like serving the Gentile. They don't like being used in any kind of way by the Gentile. Sure, brown people, Asian people, Chinese people, CCP people, you know, anybody non-white on the planet can use their services. Understand? That's why they always turn off the Wi-Fi. Yeah, they always turn off the fucking Wi-Fi whenever they can. They fuck up the portal. You can't log in. You know, the bank doesn't work. Whatever. They don't like providing services to Gentiles. Yeah, anybody else, sure. Chinese people, brown people, black people, Aborigines. You can look like a piece of excrement with eyes, with a pair of eyes and a nose. Yeah, they'll serve you. If you look that bad, they'll serve you. But if you're a Gentile, big problemo. Big problemo if you're a Gentile, host. Yeah. That's right.
所有的是不是都是男的？好，我没有了。
Makes sense. She's just sitting on her throne, moping about it. I mean, I know she's in the show now after the first episode. Point being is, it should have just been him on the plane at like Gunsmoke for this season, and it would have been better than what we're getting because we've already seen him go off on random adventures. Give us something new.
Well,
right?
she got to wield the black lightsaber in the previous episode, but I don't know whether she got to keep it or not.
The dark saber? At this point, it
dark
doesn't-
saber. Sorry, dark saber.
Yeah, but I mean, that was like the whole thing was like she was really, it seemed burned by that whole thing at the end of that, and it's gone nowhere from that first episode. And I guess she's back in the show now, but I don't care. I really don't care. That's the problem. And I don't know if there's anything here to keep normies involved anymore either.
Yeah,
and everybody checked out during Boba Fett and Obi-Wan.
Well, easily, yeah. I mean, and a lot of people, I mean, enjoyed Andor for some reason. I was not one of them. But, you know, why? So it's just, I look at it and I'm like, you're running this thing into the ground, and you're telling stories that lead nowhere, that it's oftentimes don't, because you're telling them in a past that we're somewhat familiar with, don't make sense in the timeline of events, and it's all very messy. But I still would say that, you know, the 3 bonus episodes of Mandalorian season 3 we got in Book of Boba Fett were not helpful to season 3 of Mandalorian. You know, I feel like they, for whatever reason, bringing Grogu back kind of poisoned the show, because now we've lost all progress. We stepped as far away from forward movement as we possibly could, and now, you know, we're back on these minor side quests. There has to be something more here. I think we all feel a void, right? I feel there is a void all over the story. Nothing has mattered. Nothing's progressed. All you've had is a few moments that feel like Star Wars here and there, including the return of, you know, Luke, which I thought was ridiculous. And I'm at odds with, you know, with trying to find something to retain my interest in.
Well, what on earth does a Mandalorian do? Isn't he or she a bounty hunter? I completely lost sight of What?
You know why?
What they
You know
put
why he lost
here
that?
in the
His
helmet?
culture, he's done it perfectly. Because he's not really being a Mandalorian when he's straddled watching this kit. Now, that was like fine in the first 2 seasons, but then they wisely got rid of the kit towards the end of the season 2 in a way that mattered, freeing Mando up to actually be a Mandalorian, taking bounty hunter assignments and then getting more involved with the Empire or what have you, while Grogu is off elsewhere for like a season or 2 before they get like reunited again. That's what should have done. If they had done that, I think that the series would have been more exciting. If season 3 had come earlier, and it had been more actually ended with Mandalorian being a proper Mandalorian. Instead, I think that this has to be like marketing that decided that no. Those Funko Pops, they sell so much, so we've ordered just like 20 different Grogu Funko variants. So we need to have him back in the season just to sell those. So in Boba Fett, just bring him back again so that he's back again for season 3, so everyone knows and everyone is happy and excited. And they probably thought that was a good idea, and I'm sure that when they run the numbers, they would have said that it was a good idea. But I think they underestimated the fact that audiences they loved Yoda, but they had their fill with him. He disappeared at just the right time. And now when you bring him back after the promise of removing him, just bring him back right away, the shtick is done. It's not fun anymore. No, it's just annoying.
Okay, so I agree with you 100%, Andre. What I want to say is this. He's no longer a bounty hunter. Okay, he doesn't have a ship that would be able to collect bounties. He doesn't do anything other than, whatever these side quest missions are that I keep saying. And there is a larger story they're trying to flesh out. I can see where this could go because of some of the dialogue choices that have been made the last 2 episodes. The Mandalorians were a great society. They had a thriving community and a planet full of a valuable resource and all types of other things. They fractionalized in various ways, which is what Katie Sackhoff was trying to collect everybody back together, but through some mysterious circumstance she wasn't able to keep people collected together of the different clans. So it's maybe that's a bigger idea here, that they're going to try to get all the Mandalorians back together to form up another Mandalorian society and no longer be essentially and primarily bounty hunters. But like I said, there's no vehicles in place, and both literally and figuratively, for him to be a mercenary anymore, for him to be a bounty hunter. And he's saddled with Baby Yoda, which really hampers any kind of storytelling that could move things forward. I hate to say it, and I do sound kind of like anti, Grogu, and I just am now. Before it was a useful vehicle, now it's not.
Well, when Luke took him, we all cheered.
Right.
That was a great moment. The return of Luke, or a semblance of Luke. And that should have been it. Leave it. Gone. Done. And then, for whatever reason, the powers that be said, first of all, don't make Luke look good.
Right.
We don't want to do that, because we hate Luke.
I don't, but
Disney does.
I enjoyed this.
It was mismanaged to oblivion. That's the thing. Creatively, with the return of Luke Skywalker, that was the point where they could have turned everything around for Star Wars, but instead they mismanaged everything to oblivion. So it'll be interesting to see if they can come up with a new Luke Skywalker moment. And then I mean that not literally bringing back Luke Skywalker, but doing something that can respawn that level of interest.
Well, there's also a bigger issue here. And that is what's happened to Jon Favreau's rising star. We've kind of, I think I'm not out of turn in saying that we've kind of equated James Gunn and Jon Favreau kind of on the same level. Am I incorrect there in making that jump to conclusion?
I can see a lot of people seeing that, yeah.
So, and now we have not seen Gunn's full creativity on display yet. We're still waiting. We're holding our breath. We're giving him the benefit of the doubt. But Jon seems to be faltering badly, which that I don't think bodes well for Disney Corp.
And with that, let's see exactly what the audience have to say about the Mandalorian. Mr. Buttcrack Media says for another proud Canadian who says for $50 Canadian dollars, the Mandalorian stunk worse than my crack after a 10-day workday. So high praise there.
Not really.
And the incompetent and unemployed Alex Kurtzman is gone. Asks for 14 South African rands. Does the Mando tank the post-sequel Grogu plan? No, it works perfectly well into it. Like Favreau has said that he's building towards the sequel trilogy, and so no, it wouldn't tank anything post-sequel. That's something that they absolutely can build with. Work around.
I think they should have put Grogu into Indiana Jones.
Might as well. There's the one. And Booking Cat says for $5, or asks rather than Baby Yoda for exposure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at the Funko Pops. I would not be surprised if Baby Yoda were a little bit of blame in those things basically now becoming E2 the party game all over again. We buried at the depth of
We can have a new term, Yoda exposure. There's our new hashtag, Yoda exposure.
Yoga? It's Yoga. But he called it Baby Yoga.
No, I know, but I ignored it.
I was at E2. Are you drinking, Andre?
I busted already.
Why the hell did they have to call him? Because they
No, I just noticed that Andre normally doesn't fuck up like that.
That's not, but they didn't reveal his name until much later.
Who cares what Grogu? Nobody calls him Grogu. When you say Grogu, most people are like, huh?
Well, he was like Junior. Like, that's all anyone needs to know.
Yeah, they even refer to him as Baby Yoda in all the articles and stuff still, so.
It sound like something that you know,
Sounds
like
disgusting, to be honest.
Born with mumble, like Grogu. Like,
Now become Mando Baby Daddy. Yeah. You're not wrong. That's actually snakes and funerals. That's I hate Baby Yoda. There, I said it.
It went from love to hate.
I don't hate him, but like, I mean, they needed to do something more. Yeah, exactly, I'm bored with it. They needed to do something else.
They need the giant crocodile.
And STR Records says it all goes back to selling freaking Funko Pops. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
No, that's what I said when I first saw him. He's a living Funko Pop. They didn't have to do anything to alter him.
they're not selling
Looks
it.
exactly like a Funko Pop. No, but they're not yet. Well, we can be clear, it wasn't just Baby Yoda Funko Pops that were destroyed. They destroyed, how many was it?
Multiple pallets of them.
It was millions of them.
Isn't the company out of business?
No, but they're quickly becoming. It was another new. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Culture.
But all I was going to say is it was over $30 million. I was just trying to add what you were saying. Tom, over $30 million.
Yeah, I knew it was some crazy amount.
Those are those giant hit toys.
Yeah, they're basically the new Beanie Babies or whatever.
Well, Beanie Babies actually had some variety, though. Those things don't have that much variety.
Are you kidding me? Well, okay, yes, in their looks, you're correct. But as a variety factor, you could have 12 different versions of any character you wanted.
Yeah.
It's a reference to Pop Art, maybe?
Yeah, the pop art. Yeah, the pop art. Yeah, those became popular. So yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, each of these companies is jumping on somebody else's like huge creation. So like, yeah, they're all garbage. Like I said, I have 2 Funko Pops, and both of them are gifted in my treasure more than anything because it was given to me by one of the people in our audience. So yeah, that is nice. Yeah.
That is nice. I also have one which was given to me, like the big trap job from Masters of the Universe. One is like 3 times the size of the regular one. Yeah. That's the one I have. Let us, we have a few more Star Wars related sets. So let's see if we can get through those before we move on with the show. And more Disney shenanigans to cover here. Thanks to Funeral also says no more Mandalorian, so he's dead. Ura says for €2. Book of Boba Fett, messed up Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. That's dead for me. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. That really did not...
So how many people would be interested in the Book of Boba Fett who watched Mandalorian? Or are they 2 brand extensions that don't really overlap? I had no interest in Boba Fett.
Honestly, I think there was a big gap, too big of a gap between Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and then between Mandalorian and Mandalorian. And then you had the big event of Obi-Wan happening in between there. There is at least a faction of the audience who were tuned out because of you know, the whole Gina Carano thing, and it had to be because think about it. Boba Fett was coming off of arguably the biggest success Star Wars has had since The Force Awakens, with regardless of how some of us may feel about it, the last episode of The Mandalorian. People were talking about it with Luke Skywalker coming back, and they failed to get that momentum and use it. You had Gina Carano being let go or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean that's all
in between there. You know, you had Boba Fett come in and reestablish the baby back into the mix. You had Obi-Wan come out and fail miserably, and that was the show that a lot of people tuned into that hadn't been tuning into the other stuff, and that had the Picard problem. And you know, now that Picard's fine, whatever, nobody's watching it because the first 2 seasons sucked. Well, that's what you had with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is everybody tuned in for it, and they're like, what the hell is this? And it just Andor doesn't really factor into this at all at this point, right? Andor is basically the Miss Marvel of this situation. It only suffered because everything before it was crap, basically up to this point. And it had to be that moment that killed the momentum. Had to be Gina Carano, from what I can tell, because that's the one thing in between both Boba Fett and Mandalorian where it makes no sense, because Boba Fett is one of the most popular Star Wars characters, hands down. The only characters that I can see that maybe are more popular than Boba Fett would be Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and maybe Yoda. Maybe Yoda. I can't even say that. See, so that's what I'm saying is like, how does a show with one of the most popular Star Wars characters flop? Something happened in between there, especially when you had basically your Spider-Man No Way Home moment in the last episode of The Mandalorian that led into this. Something had to have happened in between there, and that's the only thing I can put my finger on. I didn't think that many people paid attention, but I guess more people paid attention than I thought.
Evidently, yeah. And also on that note, final on this topic, OC Gigan says for $2. So are Favreau and Filoni at fault? Is GL not helping? GL again, remind me.
George Lucas has nothing to do with any of this. He hasn't had anything to do with Star Wars since 2012.
Only consultancy jobs. But
even then, we can't even prove that. He's been on the set of Mandalorian. That's the most we can prove.
Yeah, I would say that this is something that they worked together to screw up. Favreau had like a good intention. Filoni will serve whichever master he decides is better, as long as he gets to promote his own characters. Kennedy just wants to pull the rug out under them to promote her brand of Star Wars, and Favreau himself really messed up on Boba Fett. You can try to blame others for the motorcycles and stuff, but really he had the wrong fundamental take there, and that's on him. So they all
And Chicken Little Syndrome could be right. The idea of Boba may be more popular than the character itself.
Well, he was one of the coolest looking things in the Star Wars franchise aside from Darth Vader. In the movies, he didn't have any character or agency other than the fact that he was the one who got lucky to team up with Vader and capture Han Solo. In the early 90s, when some of the EU books were being published, the lore of the Mandalorians was that they were extinct. And the only things that survived of their species were bits and pieces of their technology and the armor that Boba Fett found and wore. That was it. And then that started to change as the years went on because they wanted to. And then it was completely thrown out the window with the prequel trilogy and then followed by the Clone Wars. So yeah, the Mandalorian lore itself has been polluted for decades prior to it. And now what you end up having is a species that used to be extinct and now is incredibly stable to a degree, but just nomadic. And their planet is fine. And like there's no stakes or any mystery with regards to them anymore. You've ruined the mystique in trying to explore something that didn't really need to be explored.
I was always impressed with how he crossed his arms. That to me was the most impressive moment.
Yeah, most impressive. With that, let us move on from the Mandalorian. We have plenty more super chats on different topics as well. We're going to get through them all in the end. But first, just to segue into the next topic here, the incompetent and unemployed Alex Kurtzman is gone, says for 14 South African rands. When does the Marvel exorcism begin? And things aren't too good with the MCU, and Phase 5 certainly is not off to a great start, with it now looking more and more certain that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will end up losing money. The only question at this point is how much is it going to lose? Is it going to lose more or less than 100 million? But we are talking losses in that range, and it's looking increasingly unlikely to even match the first movie at the box office, and that is without inflation. So Quantumania, however you choose to look at it, is a disaster. Now, where do you put the blame for this? There's many fingers to point, but it would appear that Disney has chosen to scapegoat Reddit. Tom, I believe we have a story about that we can put up on screen. So basically, what Disney are doing is that they are subpoenaing culture.
Trying to subpoena.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Because I don't think that, because at this point, as far as we know, in basically so many terms, not to get ahead of things, Reddit has told them to go piss up a rope.
Yeah.
Google has yet to comment or do anything as far as I know.
Yeah, and everywhere I've read this story or picked it up or looked at it or whatever, I've been like, this is more of a scare tactic than anything else. And a lot of people tried to associate the outage that Reddit was suffering, was Disney attacking them or something. There was a lot of conspiracies going on about that yesterday.
The short version is this: what was it? Close to a month before the movie came out, somebody on Reddit had posted a breakdown of the film,
a transcript, 96 pages,
a transcript. Yeah. They had gotten their hands on the subtitle script of the film. So for other countries, when they get the movie, so they can put the subtitles on, somebody obviously does that or whatever. I don't know if this was something that took place in the US or outside of the US. Point is, they want to know who this individual is. Reddit protects its users. I see it falls probably under a First Amendment kind of thing, but Disney's arguing that they may have, grounds to go after this individual because if they're under NDA, which they have a point to that, but otherwise, if they're not under NDA, I'm not so sure what grounds Disney has to do a damn thing here. Because unfortunately for them, it falls under, like I said, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press, and unless they're actually copying and pasting and putting the actual script out there, which is copyrighted, that is. Now, if that was the case, we'd be talking a little bit different situation here. This, to me, is about as dumb as the individual who thought that people should be prosecuted for spoilers. Because it's just never going to happen. Nothing's going to come of this. So unless Reddit gives up any information, I don't even know if a court would give them the...
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tom. And to add to that, everywhere I've seen reports, the transcript was probably a localization, or subtitles or whatever, because it was in the Portuguese language. And
so this is the first time I even heard which language it was.
Yeah, and as Andre suggested, it's probably out of Brazil would be my guess. And
probably Brazilian, because there's a bigger like scene for Marvel fandom in Brazil than there is in mainland Portugal.
The point is, unless this individual actually specifically works for Disney and signs some kind of NDA, there's not a whole lot they can really do. I mean, they can fire him. They can get him fired. But they're not going to extradite this individual over a freaking script.
If you have to prove criminality, then. But no.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, what kind of damages are they going to be able to prove for this?
Yeah, it's like this is nothing more than like, don't share our stuff, please.
No, this is exactly what I said last night. This is them deflecting from the fact that the movie fucking sucked and it bombed at the box office. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. This would have been a complete non-issue if the movie had done all right. But this is kind of like what I was getting to. The movie isn't doing all right. So then they're trying to scapegoat, like, the movie is doing okay because everyone would have loved it, but the script was just leaked so much that so many people felt that they didn't need to go see it. Therefore, we have losses because of that. That is their implied argument. When, of course, the real story is that Phase 4 caught up with them. Few people checked out Quantumania to begin with, and after word of mouth of how badly Quantumania messed up, even fewer went back to see it. So yes, it's exactly as your guys are saying in the chat here. This is trying to shift the blame desperately.
When all else fails, blame the fans.
Yeah. Because let's be real, I just pointed out, there were some individuals who were really pissed that a bunch of stuff from Screen 6 had leaked out before the movie did. And there was an individual who thought that people should be prosecuted for spoilers, and I, of course, called him out on his nonsense. But guess what? Paramount's not doing shit. Why? Because the movie's doing just fine. Andre's right. If this movie would be doing just fine, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I didn't even know this thing leaked out until just the story leaked out. Exactly. That was the first I heard about it.
Yeah, but that's like the thing. None of us bothered looking for it, and that's
exactly
the damage of Phase 4. That's the whole reason for that. I mean, there's plenty of spoilers for all of the upcoming plans for like Phase 5, Phase 6, and Phase 7. Granted, these things they're still being hammered out as we speak, and as we'll get into here. But still, they have like some plans and some director requests and everything like that already, which are leaking online, and we'll be getting into some of these leaks momentarily here. But what I will say is that when leaks really do matter is when the leaks aren't any good. Because here's like the thing, when you get leaks, that's usually when someone is unhappy with what is going on. Those are the productions that leak, is when the people working on the movie, who very often are fans of the properties, and they see what's going on and they cannot contain their frustration, that's when leaks happen. When things are all good and well, there's far fewer leaks to come by as a general thing.
It's also people justifying their jobs. This will have not done Disney any good. It's a giant waste of money. But if it's all internal legal money, then they're just pushing dollars around from one division to another. This could very well just be make work projects. It could be an executive who is screaming at the foot of their desk, demanding something be done, and so they send their little sharks out to try to find some small fry to eat. I mean,
there would be two executives I would assume you're speaking about. One of them being Victoria Alonso, and the other one being Kevin Feige. I mean, those would be the two obvious ones. Because let me tell you, Uncle Bob probably is not super thrilled with the performance of this film. So
we don't know whether Feige is a chair thrower or not. I get the feeling that Alonso is the one who has got the mean streak.
Yeah,
I don't.
Exactly. What I have heard is that, and again, this is just rumor alert stuff like that. Kevin Feige is more of the passive-aggressive type, whereas Alonso, again, rumor is a screamer. Is what I've heard. Something like this is more likely to come from a screamer than someone passive-aggressive.
Yes. Again, this does Disney absolutely no good, and even if they win, it's worthless. I've seen this many times before. So what's the benefit except for maybe you have to protect your IP or you lose your IP. I've talked about that before. So this could be a mechanical effort.
Yeah, and I would gather that also to add to that, Paul. You said before somebody's trying to protect their job.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that motivates a lot of unnecessary expenditure because you're either going to keep your job or you're not, and the audience again, somebody leaking this. I mentioned it when we were talking about this story similarly on Mr. H. I said that the following: you only have companies complaining, as you guys mentioned, when you lose money on something like this, whereas with I mentioned that the original Matrix film leaked 2 weeks ahead of time digitally. You could get it in various platforms, including at the time LimeWire and other things. It did not affect the box office of that film, the popularity of that film, the rampant consumption of that film, both in the box office and in all the other markets that used to exist that studios relied on to make more money. It didn't affect that film at all. Again, it only comes down to when you make something bad that nobody's consuming anyway that you go running for that complaint department, right? So.
Indeed. And speaking of something bad and leaks, I thought, since we are on the topic, let's look at some leaks and consider the next Avengers movie. Because all the current movies, they're all just holdovers, aren't they? To bring us over to the next Avengers movie. That should be like the next big event, shouldn't it? Bringing back the Captain America and basically everyone we want to see, shouldn't it? Well, yeah, you may hope so, but this is not the case, because we do have some leaks. These leaks, partially, they come from Grace Randolph, partially, they come from other places, but they have all been helpfully collected one place, courtesy of Fandom Wire. So let's head on over to Fandom Wire and check out the Avengers lineup for the upcoming Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, which is the movie to be written by the same author who also wrote Ant-Man Quantumania. So, yeah, good times. Really strong writer there, isn't it? We also know something more about the movie. We know the movie's director, and the director of that movie is one Destin Daniel Cretton, who would be the same individual who also directed Shang-Chi. So, yeah, Culture, I can see that you are excited for Avengers already.
Yeah, if we get the same kind of delivery from Daniel as we got in Shang-Chi, I can anticipate this to be a master flop. This will be a very expensive expenditure for Disney, just like Ant-Man. But yeah.
Well, hang on here, because there's more. So we know that it's written by Loveness, who wrote Quantumania, and it's directed by Cretton, who also directed Shang-Chi. But now, we're not going to go down into the story, because that may be slightly subject to change, but let's just go through who, according to the Fandom Wire sources, including what Grace Randolph has said publicly, are likely to be the lineup for this new Avengers.
I can hardly wait.
Yeah, we have Spider-Man. And what they write here is that given that Tom Holland recently signed a new MCU contract with a much bigger chain paycheck, Spider-Man is set to play a crucial role in the story. Many scoopers, including Ray Randolph, confirmed that he'd be the lead in the film. So it's basically a Spider-Man film, him taking over the role of Captain America / Tony Stark. And then, of course, this being from the director of Shang-Chi, you also have Shang-Chi. Being the best martial artist in the world, this team up with Spider-Man will prove to be really intriguing. Will it? Well, we shall see. And then, of course, we have Captain America. Not Steve Rogers, but the Falcon donning the Captain America costume, as seen in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. This is the sequel to that. And then, of course, not of course, but then maybe surprisingly, we have Captain Marvel. And here they write, Carol Danvers may or may not be a full-time member of the next Avengers squad, but she's certainly rated very highly as a character. Well, by who? Once she joins the fight after traveling to Earth, she could become the co-leader alongside Sam Wilson. Wait, so Sam Wilson is the leader? Didn't they just say Spider-Man? Think of your minds. Also, Grace Randolph mentioned the fact that director Gretton, who has just worked with Brie Larson on movies like Short Term 12 and Just Mercy, demanded Captain Marvel to be in the film after adding her in Shang-Chi's mid-credit scene as well. So it would appear that Gretton is a fan of Captain Marvel. And then, rounding out the team, we have Moon Knight, out of the Disney Plus series, and Daredevil to come in a Disney Plus series as well. And then there's also Shuri and the new Black Widow, Yelena Belova. And finally, Namor, and definitely She-Hulk, and possibly the Hulk. Oh, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And under maybes is Hawkeye, assuming that he's able to heal enough for that time, so probably not. And Wong is also a maybe. And that then is the latest rumor for who is going to be the lead team in the next Avengers. So, Script Doctor, having heard this, how excited are you for the next Avengers movie, now knowing the director, writer, and likely lineup?
Not excited at all. I mean,
What? I am shocked.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you don't have a very good behind-the-scenes team to lead this thing forward because the pattern of what their work has not been good. So, they're not been to the standard of what Marvel had prior to Endgame in order to create or generate excitement.
Mr. Chato, do you share your excitement on this?
This really does feel second tier. Well, worse than second tier. I don't like the way Captain America was handled at all. I didn't like the handoff. I mean, I don't like the character. It's uninteresting. He's preachy. And then it's the same team, I believe, that are working on a Disney Plus show, Crouching Tiger, everywhere, all the time, whatever. With Michelle, it looks like I think the Shang-Chi team is working on a Disney Plus show. And so they seem to be overextending themselves. Actually, I think a bathroom break would be overextending.
Culture. Now, when you've heard everything else here, let's have it. What kind of winners is going to be?
I could not express more lack of enthusiasm if I tried. I think we're getting, I guess, kind of half of A-Force in here or something. I mean, this is all designed to bring up, the sub-tier characters, as Paul was correctly calling them. This doesn't feel big. None of the characters we're being presented earned anything on screen or in the story. So I think that because everything that we're being presented is unearned, it doesn't garner enthusiasm. There's nothing to get hyped up over. None of the stories that any of these people were in were particularly compelling, especially Falcon Cap and She-Hulk and the 12 bracelet guy and the latest Ant-Man and Wasp is a resounding thud, and I really think Wakanda Forever was not a quality product. So it's like essentially this is like doubling down on undermining what was left of your value, in my opinion.
Tom, let's hear your enthusiasm for this.
It's fuck.
Yeah. Don't care. Don't give a fuck. Outside of Spider-Man, I have no desire or interest in any of this shit. Don't care about any of these characters. I mean, are they even so sure it's going to be Ant-Man and not his mother-in-law or his daughter? To me, this is
a cameo.
You want to know the truth? To be honest with you, I don't even feel like this is a scoop. I feel like this is like Grace Randolph sat down and goes, "Who do we got? Okay, this is clearly going to be the Avengers."
Even if that's what it is, even if that is what it is, she's probably not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying she's probably wrong, but to me at this point, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And Spider-Man actually has to do something to get me, to keep me interested. Because No Way Home was kind of a fluke of sorts, because I didn't care for the second one as much as I did the first one, but the third film was fun. Now, does it do anything for the Marvel Universe? Not really. But that's probably one of its saving graces, is that it doesn't have to really do much with the other stuff other than Doctor Strange. So
I remember when the first Avengers movie was set up. I was so excited to see all these superheroes together. I genuinely remember being excited about the idea. Each one had been nicely set up on their own with some very good individual movies. The first Captain America movie was fantastic. Winter Soldier was terrific.
I'll tell you when it first dawned on me.
Thor was good. I liked the Branagh Thor. I thought it was very Shakespearean.
because the Samuel Jackson thing in Iron Man didn't really tip me off. Because I was like, okay, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. has something to do with Marvel, Iron Man. I just figured they were bringing S.H.I.E.L.D. in the sequel. I didn't think nothing of it at that point.
He wasn't in the first movie.
Yeah, he was. Samuel Jackson was in the first Iron Man at the
post-credit scene. That's the post-credit scene.
So I just figured, okay, they're just bringing in S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, and obviously they even
Are you
had,
expecting me to remember every post-credit?
Okay, but my point is this. Okay, so then I go to see Hulk, right? And I happen to be dating the same person I was at the time that I saw Iron Man with, and we're watching Hulk. And at the very end of Hulk, here comes Robert Downey Jr. And she's kind of confused. And I said, "Don't you get it?" She's like, "What?" I said, "He's Iron Man." She's like, "Yeah." I said, "They're doing the Avengers." She's like, "What's that?"
That's it. That's the end of our relationship. You're done.
And I'm just sitting here geeking out like a little kid, and she's just like, "I have no idea what you're fucking talking about."
Well, she would. The world would a few years later come 2012 with the release of the Avengers. And to me, this is kind of like the amazing thing because that set the world on fire and it instantly skyrocketed Marvel to the biggest entertainment brand of all time. This movie is going to do the opposite. This is going to deflate what is left in the Marvel balloon. This is what's going to take Marvel from an A-list brand to a B brand. Because this right here, like right now, like Disney Plus level quality, that's a slur right now. That's nothing to write home about. This here looks like the Disney Plus Avengers. This looks like a cheap knockoff. This looks like a derivative, just from the casting alone. Because during Phase 1, 2, and 3, all of those characters, for most of them, were completely unknown to the public at large. Like, people around the world, they have very limited idea who Captain America is before that movie. No one knew anything about Hawkeye, or Black Widow, or Iron Man for that matter. Like, these were new commodities to a very big section of the movie-going audience worldwide. Yet there was something about their execution where magic happened and people instantly just fell in love with them. We're not seeing that now. We're getting new characters that in principle isn't any different from getting new characters before, but these are characters that were rejected by the audience by and large. Evidence being Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I maintain is a referendum on all of Phase 4. And now it's all of those characters that individually were rejected that's being put together. No good can come of this, especially not when you look at the writer and the director. This is going to tank Marvel, is my expectation for this. And it's not going to help that Jonathan Majors is this amazing, super duper actor according to the entertainment media complex. It's not going to help that you have 1,000 different versions of him, not when these are your heroes that you're supposed to follow. Of course, I don't blame the writer for trying to make us root for Kang, because if these are the heroes, maybe you're better off rooting for the villain. So, yeah. Andre, I think you put it best. This is the Disney Plus. And, you know, to be honest, if some of this was leading up to like a Disney Plus Avengers kind of series event thing, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not saying I'd get excited for it, but I could see it because that's the level it's at. This is not what Paul was saying before. It's not feeling like it's leading up to this big event like we used to have with, you know, up to Endgame, basically, where we knew every couple of years we were going to get one of these things. At this point, it's just, this isn't even the B team. This is like the D squad.
Well, I guess I have a question.
It's the D plus squad.
Right, but I mean, let me direct this to script. He's probably most likely to know. Don't you feel like they've written, because they created these Disney Plus shows to introduce these, you know, backdoor introduce these characters, that they've devalued their properties overall, especially when they were taking like D and E and F listers and trying to elevate them to, you know, as important as the previous Avenger team that we got to see develop fully over the course of many films?
No, they didn't devalue them by introducing them. They devalue them by not giving them their due with regards to character quality and development.
Right.
Doesn't matter how you introduce them. If you introduce a great character, if it's on TV or film, people will come and watch. And if you want to cross that over from TV to film or film to TV, people will come and watch. We've seen it with Star Trek. Those characters started on the television show. They were introduced rather well and well defined. And when the movie came out, the motion picture, people went and saw it. And even though it didn't do huge numbers and stuff, it did inspire Paramount enough to say, okay, let's do another one. And they did. They did 6 following that TV series.
Right.
Audiences will come if you do justice to the characters. Disney had the correct formula with regards to, if we can monetize our streaming service and introduce these characters in a more controlled environment and then elevate them to the movies, people will watch. That is relatively true. But the thing that they didn't pay attention to is, well, are we going to tell great stories and are we going to make these characters the best they can be so that audiences want to see them? And they didn't do that. They dropped the ball huge. So no, you're not devaluing the character just by putting them on Disney Plus or what have you. You're devaluing them by just not giving them good stories for people to like.
Can I introduce an idea though? Okay, so we just saw an amazing, or a few years ago we had these amazing street level Marvel characters, right? You know, you had Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen.
Daredevil, Luke Cage, and
you had Hell's Kitchen. It was well represented. It was like a show that a lot of people got around, specifically Daredevil and Punisher. And you saw these characters, street level characters, and then you take that character, kind of show him off a little bit in the Spider-Man No Way Home film, but then you drop him into this incredibly inferior She-Hulk show, basically reducing his value. I think I'm suggesting that Disney Plus is reducing the value of these properties.
Well, it's how they're handling the writing of the show that's reducing the value. Again, like Disney Plus skyrocketed with The Mandalorian and WandaVision. It was the execution of how they did WandaVision that people started to tune out with, and then followed by Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki and so forth. It's not the brand itself was strong enough to get them there, but the quality wasn't there to retain them. And that's the thing. Like, there is nothing to say that 5 years ago, if you said, "Oh, we're going to do a She-Hulk show, and we're going to have Daredevil swing by," everyone that saw Daredevil on Netflix would be very excited to see that pair up. And it was actually kind of true when they teased it a little bit in the first teasers before the show debuted. But then again, the show was so bad, people tuned out. It's always the quality. It's not necessarily the players that are being put on the platform. The platform, I mean, I understand Marshall McLuhan's medium is the message. There's some truth to that, but I've read his stuff. I don't always agree with it, but there's validity to it.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is that you have to take into account the individual agency of the audience and the agency of the people that are creating the product. And if the people that are creating it are not giving it their all to try and tell the best stories they can, and the audience isn't liking it, the medium is irrelevant at that point because it's the quality of the work.
Yeah, you are of course correct, and that's like the issue. I mean, that's why I think that Disney Plus has gotten this kind of like stigma of being like subpar and B-list, because the quality of the work of the writers that they have given the gigs on Disney Plus, their work simply hasn't been there. Which is why you do not say Disney in the same breath as HBO, unless you just list streaming services. When it comes to like quality, Disney Plus doesn't have a Sopranos, it doesn't have an Us, it doesn't have any like classic like that. Like what I mean is like you say the name HBO and you have like some quality high-end associations with it. You could have had that with Disney Plus too, but as you say, Script, they dropped that ball. And with that, let's
no, I agree. Actually,
Just out of curiosity, what was HBO's revenue model?
HBO was all subscription based through cable, and actually was.
That's what it is. So right. It was one of the first cable entities out there.
Premium channel.
Yeah, it was a premium channel. So I was just right because Disney Plus is no financial model.
No, Disney actually used to have a similar thing. They actually were the first channel to give HBO any run for its money with the Disney Channel back in the day.
Right. But that was all.
And they should have. Yeah, but they still had. They should have used that momentum and that whole strategy.
Completely agree with you. Yes. They
and that's what it was. It was basically like what Andre was saying was the TV premium version of Disney's delivery system, right? And in that case, even then, they were smart enough not to let their Vault films on there too often. Very rarely did you get an occasion where you were getting shown one of those films.
And it was an event.
Exactly. Like the one time I think they showed Lion King, it was a huge deal and stuff like that, but they very rarely have shown any of the Vault classics on there.
Indeed.
And so now like D Plus has gone the opposite direction, but Andre's right. Most of these shows could have been well received and considered prestige or premium shows, but their value is garbage. And it's seeped into the films too, both ways, or however you want to look at it. They're the same, if you ask me. There's no difference.
Contagion spread is what you're looking for.
Yes, thank you.
Could we say that it's essentially they created under Feige a factory or an assembly line, and it's full of its own faults all the way through the process?
To a point, yes. Like the McDonaldization, as I pointed out before, was part of the problem. That wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the woke, though. Because if they were just continuing to churn out, it could still be one kind of like the last. As long as it was decent, people wouldn't give a shit.
I submit that's why Phase 4 has been rejected. It's because these they no longer have the character agency that the earlier introduced characters that audiences weren't familiar with either. They had a level of agency that these new Phase 4 characters just don't have. Instead, they have their identities front and center, as if that makes the character. And also on that note, T. Neil89 says for $10, my word, guys, we've been remiss in our condemnations of Disney. With Disney Plus, they've developed the world's first perpetual motion device. It's just that the direction is down. That's what I Yeah. And Scott Hughes says for $5, I'm going to call it now. If this Avenger scoop is legit, it will never be made, or Marvel will pull a gun and scrap/reboot the entire MCU. Yeah,
normally I'd say there's no way that's going to happen, but even Feige has kind of hinted that some things are not set in stone, I think, in so many words.
He needs to fire those Rick and Morty writers to begin with.
He keeps bringing them in.
Yeah, and Mr. Tickle Trunk also says for $2 Canadian, Marvel's Avengers are from the island of misfit toys.
Nobody wants to play with a Shang-Chi!
That was such a terrible movie.
Yeah, and then, Tom, you have to make the introductions here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hold on to your pants. Rod Thunderheart is in the house. And he says, with $2 Canadian and 20 cents, is it cents in Canada too? Yeah, for sure, since it's dollars. Ant-Man writers slated for Kang Dynasty and plot thins.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's one way of putting it.
The plot is definitely not thickened. That would surprise me.
Which is sad, because they have at least 3 or 4 very well-known big bads they could have set up for this phase, right? You've got Doctor Doom, you've got Galactus. There's probably half a dozen more people could throw out in the chat right now that people know besides Kang, right? So,
yeah. And then we have some breaking news from Disney Plus, but before then, we will do a couple more of these super chat. SDR Red Wolf says for $5, wakes up. Huh? What? Marvel plans? Meh. Wake me when they ask to adapt my novel. Goes back to nothing. Yeah, I don't think that you missed anything particular here, nor will you. John Thomas says for $5, B level. Kathy Griffin D-list level.
That's what I was saying, John. Yep. It's the D plus crew.
Well, the D minus crew, actually.
Oh, what is that behind you there? Why is it moving?
That's just Brie.
She's huge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it reflects her ego, does it not?
True, but I think she's going to eat culture.
Yeah, maybe. As long as
oh God, her mouth just like opened up what she's thinking about.
And then Pinot Chase Helicopter Tour says for $5, how soon before Victoria Alonso demands prison for those who don't accept the new MCU? Or Iger gives 50 ESG points to those who watch their stuff. I'm sure there's...
You joke, but this Reddit business, yeah. The next step after the Reddit business, who do you think they're going to go after? Us. And that's what that's all about.
Oh yeah, soon it's coming, it's coming. Mexican United Man says, I'm angry. Why wasn't my agent contacted? Since surely Mexican United Man could make this new team. Hashtag Brown Hero Lives Matter. Yeah, indeed.
He's not wrong. He has a call signal.
There it is.
And with that, let's move into some breaking news that Six very helpfully found behind the scenes here. Tom,
Well, is Toxic Man Flu in the check? 'Cause he's got to add another one to the list of dead series. We have lost a lot of series this year, and we won't miss them. And here's another one we won't miss. Willow is canceled after one season on D+.
Wow.
Nobody is surprised.
Sorry. This was a travesty.
So guess what, kids? We're not getting that second season they supposedly kept talking about.
You mean the ones that like the cast and crew were like really championing and trying to get?
Because they thought, oh yeah, we'll get Val Kilmer in the second season probably.
In a wheelchair.
When we don't have to kill him to get him in the show, they kept saying it.
We've had good news twice today. This is one of them. The other one was they're ending the League of Their Own divisive.
Yes, I brought that up to Tox last night too. Culture. I'm like, add another one to the list. League of Their Own also died. But yeah, on this note, Willow, I don't think anybody's sad to see this one go.
I felt personally attacked by the show. To be fair,
a little bit. Get it? A little bit.
Came up short.
Yeah, that was better.
Nice one. That's a very, very classy. So yeah,
nobody cares.
Are you surprised that Willow will not be returning for another season? And did you catch any of the previous one?
I did not see a single Willow.
Neither did anyone else, and I think that may have been a problem. And those that did see it hated it.
I watched 20 minutes of it. The show should have been called Pussy Willow because that's what it was more about.
It's so funny that they I don't know, they're managing to promote these shows in such a way that I immediately go, wow, I'm not interested. That does not bode well for any kind of a competent marketing division.
Well,
I don't understand why the producers would see a cut of the trailer for something like this and go, wow, this totally embodies every single thing that we believe in the show, and this is going to be great, and people are going to love it. They must be deluded.
Yes. Again, marketing in Hollywood is the laziest of the lazies. Like, they just don't know how to do it anymore.
But not just that. I can envision, this is another whole discussion, is that they make a cut based on the political aspects of the show that they've created and they're going to go, wow, this show is going to change the world. This cut of this trailer is so satisfying. I love it. And then they're shocked when people hate it. I don't understand. Well, I mean, they're sniffing their own poos is what's happening.
Well, when you have a bunch of narcissists who are the ones running the show,
correct.
You have people who have been so completely brainwashed that they genuinely believe that they are saving the world, that they are saving the lives with this series. It's literally a cult mentality that they have. And of course, then when they have surrounded themselves with people inside of a bubble who all think this is the most amazing thing ever, they've never seen anything. These are young, inexperienced writers who somehow think that what they are producing is up there with the best of Game of Thrones and Sopranos and The Shield and what have you, and it just isn't. But it's so important because my diversity and representation, and that is rejected by the audience, and they are shocked, and they beg and plead in the press for season 2, and it just ain't happening because no one is watching.
Utterly shocked. I am shocked.
So are they, and they're genuinely shocked. That's the difference. And but also there's like a larger implication here because yeah, this is like another one bites dust. But you know what also is going on here? This is yet another Lucasfilm show that failed. It's not just Willow. This is another failure attributed to Kathleen Kennedy. Woohoo! So this is bad news even in that camp. I mean, script. I'm curious, like, what do you think the reception of the industry is going to be on this and to Kathleen Kennedy's legacy? Because here is now yet another failure. There's not that many brands that Lucasfilm has. Like, what is it? I mean, it's Star Wars, it's Indiana Jones, and it's Willow.
It's also
and Star Wars went down the drain, and now Willow just went down the drain as well. So all they really have left at this point is Indiana Jones. So by the time she leaves, she may have tanked the entire company and all of their assets.
Well, no, because there's still a few assets that Lucasfilm has that, are dormant, but they're there. That is Maniac Mansion, Escape from Monkey Island. They're not going to do anything with those because they probably aren't aware of them.
I was going to say what? Like, I've never even...
Again, that's because the other three were quite more popular.
It's a legendary adventure game, but that would be like the perfect sign of desperation. Next coming from the studio that destroyed Star Wars, Willow and Indiana Jones. We give you Monkey's Island because it's all we have left.
The thing is that Monkey Island was a very popular game, and they've been trying to make an adaptation of that for a very long time, but they just never found, the sweet spot, so to speak. But I would say publicly, no one's going to say anything bad about Kathleen Kennedy, but behind closed doors, you'll probably have people commenting like, I can't believe that they botched that. How did they do it? Like, is it really KK's fault, or is it just the politics at Disney? There'll be a lot of rumor and speculation and conjecture, but it'll never be done publicly. And the reason being is that it doesn't matter how many failures Kathleen Kennedy has, the position she holds right now, it kind of makes her immune to that at this point. And because of the political climate of Hollywood, she can't be held accountable for it without her being able to mobilize the news media to her defense, and thus hurt the reputation of whatever company tries to say. You don't understand. She screwed up. She mismanaged. We shouldn't be revering her just because she's a woman and has all this experience and these connections to some of the greatest talent in the industry. She clearly didn't utilize their knowledge or their skills to help make us good product. They'll never say that in this climate. They might have been able to say that maybe 20 years ago, but not today. Not now, sadly.
There you go. So Willow will not be missed by anybody, I don't think, except for maybe Warwick Davis and the rest of the cast.
He would be as legendary as Highlander 2.
Yeah, no, Ron Howard's retiring. We were told that by his brother way back when.
Yeah.
So, and all of it has exactly happened as he said it was. So, yeah. So with that, Andre, was there any super chats that had to do with Willow? Let's see here. None. But speaking of Lucasfilm, there's one about Indiana Jones from All Off NS, who sends in 2 euros. It says, Indiana Jones will fail soon, no doubt. Star Wars is next. Well, Star Wars already technically failed.
Yeah, Star Wars is already, yeah. I mean, just look at The Mandalorian.
It's been look, I mean, Lucasfilm, since Disney has acquired them, has done nothing but drive the brand downward from the first film. You know, diminishing returns set in right away. And I would argue, and I think I have in many places, there's still $4 billion underwater on that deal. So,
boy, I bet they're kicking themselves in the ass after Sunday night for not making this Indian short round movie.
Would have been good.
Yeah, missed opportunities, kids, missed opportunities. But we're going to get on to, speaking of some missed opportunities and mistakes being made, we're going to talk about Shazam and all that business here. And we can wonder if Wonder Woman will help its box office or not. We got a few super chats that have been since the beginning of the show, actually. Like this one. Hyper Guyver 2 said there's something funny about Drew Barrymore on her knees in front of a man on national television. She already flashed David Letterman years ago, so I guess that's not anything new.
Well, it worked out for her. I mean, she got like some pretty big deals from this, or maybe they were coming anyway.
They were already in the works.
Off, but yeah, what say you, Paul?
I don't know. Again, we seem to be living in this strange, bizarro world where things that are, I think, in the larger scheme of things, fairly trivial. But because as a society we're fairly successful, we're bored. And now we're doing this stupid stuff.
And we got a 50-year-old hosting the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, I'm blessed for having parents that went through World War II, because if they were still alive, they would just laugh at our utter preoccupation with all this nonsense.
And I only bring up her age because MTV used to be the bastion of, hip young teenage.
Oh yeah, and hair bands.
And
without MTV, we wouldn't have had hair bands.
This would have been like them getting Ellen to host it. Like
yes, and leg warmers.
That's how bad this is. This has been like them getting Ellen to host the MTV Movie Awards. Oh.
Ellen, I like.
Oh, I hated her Oscars. I fucking hate her. I cannot stand her, and I'm glad she's been canceled. I'll say it.
Canceled?
She deserved it. Oh yeah, you haven't heard about her?
She's persona non grata right now.
She has done fucked herself over. Yeah.
Because of the rumors of what happened.
Oh, it ain't rumors. You can watch. There's a video collection of people calling her out on her show. Like, so this has all been stuff that's kind of been.
Well, she's a tough lesbian. I mean, give her a break.
Lady in comfortable shoes. Get it right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I saw her stand up. It was one of the best stand up shows I saw.
I didn't even like her then. I don't blame people for liking her, but I've never thought she was funny.
See, I'm the nice guy in this group. Yeah.
Yeah, but you like Ellen DeGeneres.
I do. I'm sorry.
Who people are calling an outright narcissistic sociopath in the chat.
Listen. She has earned that right.
Has she?
She's been in the industry for, what, 4 decades?
Yeah.
And look how far that got her.
Oh, yeah, she is crying.
I'm sure. Well, she was crying because she was a prisoner in her own fucking palatial home.
Well, I mean, put it this way. She could probably refloat Silicon Valley Bank on her own.
Yeah.
I'm really feel sad. I mean, put it this way. Hollywood is a narcissistic community, and even the short time that I spent there with the Frantics and got tootled around with by Showtime to every single event, including the Bob Uecker show where we performed, because that's the level of act we were, the Bob Uecker show, if any of you remember that. And the thing is, it's quite intoxicating, even having fruit baskets in your hotel every day. I mean, and she has fruit baskets all the time. Whenever she wants a fruit basket, she gets it. She just snaps her fingers and there's a fruit basket. You could only dream of living that kind of a Meghan Markle existence, you bastards. So, I wait till I hit 100,000 subscribers and then I'll show you.
You don't have any time for us. ATN Falarudo says for Andre, do you have the comic Thor doll?
Actually, yes, I am quite familiar with it. I have never read like the standalone comics, but I did read the Phantom comics growing up, and Thorgal for many years was a side story there. So yes, I have read my share of Thorgals. Quite good. At least I remember them as good. I have to reread them to see if they still are. But maybe I get that one.
I've never heard of Thorgal. I got to imagine it's really like Thorgal. It's got to be like something like Conan.
Kind of, yes. It's medieval Europe.
Ah, okay. Well, I was actually
now we have to find, is it medieval or medieval? We need to settle that now.
You mean how you pronounce it? I don't know. I've never heard it pronounced. I just read it.
Anyone in the panel know? Is it medieval or medieval?
I don't know.
It's medieval.
Medieval? Okay.
Well, when I went to Europe and they talked about medieval times over there, they said medieval.
When I went to Oakville and saw the medieval festival, that's right. But I've heard medieval. These are the things we need to solve on this show.
Well, let's look up the Oxford Dictionary, see what its pronunciation says.
I think it's trans.
All I know is it was a missed opportunity that Universal would not let them call Army of Darkness Medieval Dead. But anyway, no, that's what they wanted to call it. And they're like, no, because they didn't want it associated with Evil Dead. Because they're like, nobody's seen the first two. So call it something else.
Medieval Dead is cool.
It's like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a very cool title.
That's what they wanted to call it originally.
They would think it was from the History Channel, though.
Probably. But speaking of Conan, we have a guest coming on next week, do we not, Andre?
We do. We have someone who is actually writing a new Conan book. So and who has written plenty Conan before. So next Wednesday, returning to Midnight's Edge, we've had him on a couple of times before, will be Chuck Dixon, legendary comic book creator of. Did he create Bane, or did he just write the best?
He and Grant Morrison created Bane.
That's what I thought. I thought he co-created Bane.
Yeah, but yeah, now he's working on a Conan book, so we're going to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
We should see if Frederick's busy, because he messaged, well, he didn't message, but he said something on my Twitter this morning, so...
Yeah, I don't think that Frederick is too happy with that book, because it's unlicensed.
See, I don't know. That's Andre's domain. I'm busy dealing with other shit.
Really?
I went down a rabbit hole I shouldn't have, but anyway. That video is probably coming soon. Speaking of, when's that Star Trek video coming? Did I promise?
Oh, that's later today. Later today. Yeah, later today. We have Star Trek video coming. Yes, to the ever-failing adventures of Alex Kurtzman. Just a few hours left.
Crap, did I read that last one was on screen?
No, this one what was
no,
the
not
last
this one, the one that was on before. I don't know, I can't get it now, but it's
About, it was a Thor gal?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, we read it. That's how we started.
So I thought, I just wanted to make sure. No bad ideas, just stupid ones. Says, hi, everyone. I think someone listening to the channel. I think someone listening to the channel.
I think someone is listening to the channel.
Oh. I just read Married with Children is getting an animated series. Actually, that's not brand new news. That was something that came out before, because I said then I was disappointed that they're not going with my idea, which I know this is probably what you're referring to, because they already stole that idea basically for that 70s show. But yeah, this sounds more along the lines, for two reasons they're probably doing this as an animated series. One, so they can just keep the kids probably younger and not have to have them be adults. And two, because sadly Christina Applegate is she's disabled. She's not doing too well, so she can do her voice, but like body-wise, she's not in the best of shape. So that's the only reason I can see him doing it this way. But it would have been amazing to see Married with Grandchildren. I think that would have been hilarious, especially dealing with like kids nowadays.
That would have been something. And just see Al Bundy react to a woke grandchild. I mean, that'd be worth watching.
Well, that would be the beauty, because first of all, you'd have like Bud would have to have a daughter that was, just like the women he was always chasing. So he's constantly having to protect his daughter from all these men that were just like him growing up. And then you would have Kelly, who, and this is how I figured you could get her out of the show, and that's what I said before, and just have her do cameos and stuff like that, would be like she's like got some big modeling career or something like that, and the Bundys are stuck raising her kids, and one of her kids happens to be this phenom, because since she was a complete ditz, he is like the smartest kid in the world, like he's like basically Sheldon, and he just drives, like Al and Peggy nuts or whatever. And then, like you said, the other kid is a woke kid, like the activist and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would have been kind of hilarious to deal with. But yeah, and Bud still lives in the basement. That was my show. But anyway, moving on. Budget Kaiju didn't say anything, but sent in $2. Thank you for the tip. We appreciate that. Whiskey Eye says, Whiskey One Eye, sorry. Is everyone excited for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer? No, Andre is. With a cast like that, I believe it will end with a big bang.
I don't care about the cast, but I can't wait for the bang. And I hope that we're going to get so much, what do you like to call it, Paul? Like gear porn. I want gear porn, the movie. I want demon core and the science behind it and everything. That's what I'm excited about. If it's just the cast and they doing their thing, if they skimp out on the gear porn, I'll be excited. I'll be disappointed.
I like gear porn del Toro. That's... Anyways, but and he always has lots of gear in his movies. Guillermo. He should change his name to Gear Porn. I totally agree with you. I mean, in high school, I wanted to be a nuclear physicist. I read so many books. I had my own cloud chamber where I was playing with cosmic particles or watching them. At least you can't play with them unless I had the Ant-Man outfit. I was absolutely determined to be a nuclear physicist all the way through high school, heading towards university. And Oppenheimer, of course, I'm familiar with Fermi, Oppenheimer, all these guys. And I'm really, really excited about this movie. And it's interesting because Nolan has the kind of brand with the kinds of movies that he's done where he's allowed to make a movie like this. And I think an audience will go watch it because of the brand that he has cultivated. That's, again, another discussion.
Yeah, I wasn't so much like, because I'm like a love-hate thing with Nolan. Sorry, Script, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, Nolan, he makes, well, here's the thing that hurts Nolan's brand is that he makes himself more of the spectacle than the stories he's telling. It's like, oh my God, Nolan pulled this off. It's like he got the best people in the industry. It doesn't matter if it was him or not. Someone else could do the same thing if they had that level of dedication. The skills are already there. They're in place. They've been there for decades, and they're passed on for decades because that's the nature of the professionalism of Hollywood, at least on the crew side of things, is that if you want to blow something up and do it safely, there are a lot of people that will help you do that and follow all the rules they need to. You've seen them in Tom Cruise films. You've seen that they're around there. With Nolan himself, that he does something that he puts himself before the story. Which is how he markets everything. I mean, there was a terminology used for a long time called "In Nolan We Trust," which I think went straight to his head and ego and allowed him to make some things that were not very good, but still relatively popular. I didn't find Interstellar or Tenet to be very good. The Dream movie, which name is escaping me, Inception, I thought was okay. It was more of a special effects movie than anything else. I tried to get into the whole, love story and the tragedy of his children and stuff, but just the substance didn't feel there for me.
What'd you think of 1917?
I didn't see 1917.
The one-shot movie, allegedly.
Well, allegedly, yeah. The Russian Ark is a one-shot movie. I don't know about 1917.
Yeah, it was made to look like it.
He's managed, and you know what? If you're able to create a personal brand, then more power to you. I mean, Hitchcock did it, right?
Hitchcock did it, but
Tarantino and all those have done it.
Yeah. They do it. But the other part too is that I would argue Hitchcock has probably a better track record of entertaining and successfully engaging stories compared to Christopher Nolan.
Well, his movies were also cheaper. Nolan keeps swinging for the fences, technically.
Yes.
Yeah, Nolan fancies himself like Kubrick, basically. He thinks,
I would say so.
He's a bit pretentious. I think Script is right because, like, I like some of his films, but I mean, he does put himself before the. And Tenet was a big example of that. Because to me, I'm like, this movie is not what you think it is, as far as like from his perspective. Because I got it. It's not like I didn't get it. I just thought it was pretentious and stupid. Like, I just thought the whole thing was like you.
Yeah, but that's the way it turned out. It's probably not what he intended when he started.
Maybe not.
The creative process is a mysterious thing, and you don't always know what you're going to end up with. And the studio thought that Bill and Ted's Excellent Venture was just an absolute piece of shit that no one's going to like. They were wrong.
Oh, no, you're totally... I'm not saying that, but, like, here's the thing with Christopher Nolan. I'm not so sure that the audience is as enamored with him as he's enamored with him. Yeah. Script's right there. And Tenet proves that again, that's what I'm saying. It's like, sure, people will pay attention to him, but he's not somebody on a level that, some of the names we just brought up. Like, when Kubrick would do a movie, people were there. Well, Tarantino does a movie, people are there.
Because
of him, and that's it. No other reason.
To a degree because of him, but when Tarantino, when Kubrick, even Hitchcock would promote their films, they weren't really talking about the stuff that they were doing. They were talking about the stories they were telling. Right. And that's a big difference. Nolan doesn't do that. He talks about the things he's doing, the technicality of it. And the other part, too, is, and the big difference between Nolan and those legendary directors is that those legendary directors and filmmakers, they did their research on the subjects that they were covering. Like when Hitchcock was developing Psycho, he was getting knee-deep with him and his wife trying to figure out how are we going to do this story, how are these going to play out, how are we going to really entertain and twist the audience. Same with, like, the birds and the psychology behind it. And even North by Northwest. He was in there, and the same with Kubrick. He's like, okay, if we're going to simulate stuff with 2001, or we're going to do something with Dr. Strangelove, how as best accurately can we depict this to make fun of it and have fun with it? And that's what they were doing with Nolan. He looks at it, he does his research superficially. He comes up with an idea. He's like, okay, that's great. We're going to do a movie where you can actually like move backwards in time. And then he says, well, what does that mean? Well, it just means that everything's going to play around them in reverse as they're going forward. And then he stops there, and he doesn't take into account anything else around that, which is why Tenet is a garbly junk. Same thing with regards to Inception. There's been a lot of publications with regards to dreams and lucid dreaming and retention and being able to read and not being able to read and all that other stuff. And he doesn't even explore it at all. He's like, nope, we just have this device that basically takes you to a virtual reality world, but you're dreaming. And he just stops there. And he doesn't have any more fun with it. He just says, these are the basic kind of rules, and then we're going to just keep on escalating time and time and time. And it's just nonsensical stuff to get to, the special effects that he wants to do. I think Prestige is probably one of his better films because it's incredibly simple.
I liked it. I liked Inception.
I liked Inception.
It was a ripoff of Paprika. But I mean, it was
somebody spoiled the other one that he did. No. The one man.
Interstellar.
The one with no, I saw Interstellar. I didn't care for that one.
Dunkirk.
No, Dunkirk. I
meant Dunkirk, not
Marksman and many others. And I was going to correct you anyway. But yeah, Sam Mendes did Dunkirk. No, I actually liked Star.
It was
trying to think of the other one.
Memento.
No, not Memento. The other one. Jesus Christ.
Insomnia.
No. You named every damn one but it.
Three Men and a Baby.
The Prestige. Chris, I didn't hear you over him.
Okay, it was my fault. Okay, fine.
I was trying to make a joke. And don't talk over my jokes.
No, somebody spoiled The Prestige. That's like the only one I really haven't watched. I tried watching Tenet. Saw the trailer for this. It looks good. I was just picking on you, Culture. Get back here. Anyway, Andre, are you back now?
I am back. I'm back indeed. And I will just want to add that Giotto not only was Inception a ripoff of Paprika, it was even more so a ripoff of Don Rosa's Uncle Scrooge. I'll send you that comic.
I heard about that.
You'll be blown away because like there ain't no way to even deny like every single feature from that movie. With how you have to fall and everything, it originated in that comic.
I would be very interested in seeing that.
Yeah, I'll look you up with that.
Well, and before we get on our next subject here, Paul has to leave us, so
I gotta
do his super chats real quick. Rod Thunderheart sends in 550 Canadian. It says, Hail Midnight in the morning, heading down to Calgary for the day and collecting a vessel. Sorry. A vessel. And the nuclear vessels. A vessel again and headed back. Paul, loving your video script. Can't wait to talk and hate culture.
Looking forward to it.
I like it when people love my videos. It's what I live for.
As preferred to hating them?
Correct. That is my alternative. I do get some nasty remarks, and I just tell them, you're in the minority, bub.
There you go.
Thank you for telling me you hate the video, but check out the other comments, please.
That'll be
and then another fun one to tell them is telling you did it that way so they would complain.
Yeah,
specifically for them.
I also like writing, when you move out of your mother's basement, call me.
I don't usually go to that one.
I get nasty sometimes.
Action Con says, Chato, potato or potato? Important.
Yes, well, that's true. I'm a potato guy, not a potato.
Tomato, let's call the whole thing off.
Spider-Man.
Why would they name it after a bug spray? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we got for you, Paul. So
actually, we got one more. Mr. Tickle Trump says for $5 Canadian, Happy Hungarian Memorial Day.
It is
Buzzard Day and eat an animal for Pita Day. Trying to celebrate all three without eating a drunken buzzard. Too stringy.
If I knew it was Hungarian Memorial Day, then I would have taken it off. But as a nominal Hungarian, of course, we eat animals. In fact, if you go to Hungary, there's a giant sign. As you cross the border, if it's not fried, it's not Hungarian.
So,
and we got one more before you go.
And I eat vegans because they are grass fed. That's why I eat vegan.
That's a very good point. Seth says for $4.99, God bless Chato and his love of anime. I did a whole uni paper on Satishi-kon. Millennium Actress is also great. For current anime, watch Vinland Saga.
Wow, and I have not heard of Satishi-kon or Vinland Saga, so... Vinland Saga, no.
Vinland Saga, that is the anime interpretation of Leif Erikson discovering America.
I will, I'm going to scribble those down, add them to my voluminous list. Voluminous, yes. Vinland Saga. I know, I'm just joking. Katie Saga. It's the, when you grow up with a Hungarian mother who pronounced things like a snowmobile, a snowmobile. So, so everything is a bit of a twist for me. Anyway, so it was a pleasure being with everybody here. You are all beautiful people. May Jaja Gabor look down from heaven and bless you all. Sounds great.
I met him, actually.
Jaja?
Yeah. No, sorry. I was thinking of someone else.
The divorce sisters. I'm like, God, wait a minute.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of another. I was thinking of Sasha Gabor, but that's someone else.
Sasha Gabor. No. I had relatives who went to school with Jaja Gabor. They hated her. So. I have lots of stories of Jaja Gabor, which I'm sure your audience would be happy to hear. Gossip about a long-dead Hungarian actress.
You know what's hilarious about her?
What?
You know who Dick Cavett is, right?
Of course.
I figured you would. You know the Nightmare on Elm Street series, too, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, well, he was actually in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And they said to him, okay, you're going to be on the screen and, your thing's going to lead into the nightmare. So whichever guest you want, go ahead and bring him on. So they, because they actually used his show set and all that stuff at the time.
Right.
He's like, so I picked Jaja Gabor because that is the last person I would ever have on my show because I have absolutely no interest in anything she has to fucking say. So it was amazing because I got to tell her, who gives a fuck what you think?
Well, she was in that seminal movie, Mars Needs Women. I believe that was her.
Was that the Gary Shandling?
No.
Okay.
God, I forgot all about that movie culture. Older comics, that was the name of that one because that was horrible. But no, but what you're talking about, an older film, right?
Yeah, older film.
Yeah, much older.
Jaja Gabor was Mars Needs Women.
What the hell was that one with Gary Shandling? I remember that was a big, huge bomb. And it was the whole setup was him coming to Earth to procreate with women. Like, that was it. I can't even remember the name of it now.
Oh my gosh, I think I watched that on Showtime.
Yes, it was a horrible movie.
Yeah, I can't remember the title either. I just remember the advertisements over and over. And it's like, yeah, this is not something I want to see.
Okay, so she was in Queen of Outer Space and Mars Needs Women.
Okay, yep. Not to be confused with Mars Needs Moms either.
No, it's not Earth, and it's not Earth Girls Are Easy. That was
no. Earth Girls Are Easy was Gina Davis
and what's his and tall guy.
Julie Brown, not the black one, the other one.
Yes, that's
I
right.
have to be clear because yes, it was Julie Brown's at the time.
I think we should have a Jaja Gabor movie festival night.
Oh Lord, you want to kill us?
Awesome.
Anyways, fellow humans.
What planet are you from? Thank you, Stephen. What planet are you from? That's what it was.
The fact that I remember Mars Needs Women and Jaja Gabor is...
it's more amazing that Script reminded me of that damn movie that I tried to get out of my brain for years.
Script is like that. He reminds you of things that bring horror.
That's how I entertain myself.
That's true. Anyways, I got to go. I have a company to run. And a pleasure, as always. Hopefully I was able to contribute and get a few laughs in. And we'll see you on Friday, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Pleasure, Andre. Talk to you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Six is lecturing me in the chat. I didn't even know that Downtown Julie Brown was British. You want to know why? I didn't have MTV back then. I only found out there was another one because whenever I talk about Julie Brown, I realized people thought I was talking about Downtown Julie Brown. It's like, no, I'm talking about the comedian Julie Brown. Yeah. Moving on, let's put a pin in the super chats right after this one. Mexican Iron Man says coming soon. Cocaine Bear 2. Rise of the Bear Cubs. This time, they're taking Chicago. They're the only Bear Cubs that can win.
Well, I actually feel like we're going to have a cocaine universe.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, because we know Meth Gator's coming, but literally in Chicago, they had a cocaine cat, an African serval cat that jumped traffic stop, jumped out into the wild when the cops pulled this guy over. Now they're illegal to have. Jumped out. It was just loaded up on coke, and now it's at the Cincinnati Zoo in Ohio.
You really like this story because it's the second time you brought it.
I know. I love this story. Great story.
Speaking of stories, we do have one more main topic to get through.
All right. Okay.
No, you're fine. So Andre, take us through this other story because I do not. Oh, this is a Shazam. I was saying Silent Hill.
Shazam. Oh wait, wrong Shazam.
Shazam is set to open to $80 million, so they've upped its box office now.
There's more to it. Yeah. There's more to it.
But that's worldwide, of course.
Yeah. The headline is that Shazam: Fury of the Gods expected to strike 80+ million worldwide this weekend. Which is why I'm thinking, whoa, that's some headline. A superhero movie is expected to open to 80 million worldwide. That'd be headline worthy if it was 80 million domestically, but that's not the case, is it?
No, basically, pulling a Henry Cavill didn't help him either because I don't even know if you're aware of this, Andre, but I guess a new trailer for the movie dropped. I haven't seen it, but it gives away that Wonder Woman's in the movie.
Wonder Woman.
And
big whoop at this point. Like, it's not like the movie has any future. Even though both the director
even though both the director and the star have been extremely generous in their praise about James Gunn and Peter Safran. Like, those two guys, they can do no wrong. They just hope that the audience will go and show up and see the movie, so that maybe James Gunn and Peter Safran can deviate from their plans and include Shazam and these guys in them. I would not put my hopes on that, but hey, there are no complaints about them trying to play the game. Script Doctor, are you impressed with this opening weekend estimate, especially considering that it's the worldwide figure?
I would be if the movie cost $10 million, but it doesn't. It costs like 3 times the projection that they're giving up here. Yeah, I mean, I feel, much like with Black Adam, I feel sad for the cast and crew that worked on this, because they're not going to be accolades they want from this film. It doesn't feel like it's going to deliver, even though I enjoyed the first Shazam a bit. Out of all those DC films, I'm not interested in this one. My curiosity is at its lowest point for it, sadly. And it has less to do with the fact that we're getting a new universe next year, as opposed, and has nothing to do with anything on the Snyder side of things. Even though, we should have figured that Wonder Woman would be in this one, because Black Adam had Superman. We knew that Ben Affleck's Batman was in The Flash, and supposedly an Aquaman. So yeah, maybe they would have inserted Wonder Woman in this one in order to get the threading these films together into one coherent quote unquote universe in their attempt to salvage what they had.
Yeah, I think that's more or less what those are. Those were just attempts at salvaging this, and then because that was way before James Gunn was in the picture.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I don't know. This one might end up doing better than Black Adam, but it's hard to say at this point, just because
it's lucky it has almost $100 million less budget.
Yeah.
Black Adam was 210. This one's only 125, so it has that going for it at least.
Exactly. It's got a better chance at closing that gap between box office take and actual revenue that Warner Brothers can claim. But no, it's unfortunate, because we got Helen Mirren. You got a decent cast. You got Helen Mirren. You got Zach Levy, who did fairly well previously. But again, the trailer didn't really entertain me. So I don't know. Again, DC has done a lot over the last 10 years to hurt their brand. So they've got a big uphill battle, and their marketing department has not done a good job with Shazam. And I haven't even seen much of any of the cast promoting the movie either. Like, at least with Black Adam, you had The Rock out there promoting the heck out of it, and and Danny Garcia doing the same. I'm not seeing anything similar to that here, sadly. For
Zachary's done a little, but not much. It's been mostly like
he's been doing more commentary on James Gunn's involvement with DC than anything else. So yeah.
I was gonna say it's more or less kind of being like, well, don't worry, we'll see, kids, even if I don't come back, kind of shit. Like, yeah. Culture, what's your response to the box office?
I'm laughing inside. I've been laughing since I saw this last night. I'm like losing my mind. I'm like 85 million global, and then it's gone down to 80. I'm like, oh, this is bad. And you know what? At the end of the day, this thing's going to finish. And again, it's going to be underwater again. This film will put DC underwater to the tune of $100 million, because it's only going to finish with a maximum 220 million globally. The interest for this will wash away after the first weekend, much like Ant-Man, Quantumania. And as of this moment, because Six inspired me, because she said that in her theater that they've only had 5 tickets sold for the entire day tomorrow. Right now, I'm looking at a total of 9 seats sold in the theater that I prefer.
Oh crap! This comes out already this weekend.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah. So yeah, you get your preview event tomorrow. So yeah, it does not look good, folks. I'm like, should I go see this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm gonna wait. Because hey, it's gonna be bad. Anyway, look, this thing, we already knew it was toast, because they had to drop the Wonder Woman spoiler. It would have been the thing that would have brought audiences back. It'd have been the hook, right? It's not a hook anymore. Hey.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing, but for different reasons. And the reasons I'm laughing is because, how much I love Snyder fans. I've officially gotten to the point where, I'm sorry, to any decent Snyder fans out there's a faction of your fandom that is a bunch of incessant assholes. All right? And I'm going to laugh and laugh and laugh for the next 2 years as I watch them just whine and piss and moan and cry over the loss of their Snyderverse. Because guess what? If people wanted it, they would have went to see Black Adam. If people wanted it, they'd show up in droves for Shazam because Wonder Woman's in it. I'm just so glad to see this shit come to an end. I'll be honest with you. Honestly, I'd sacrifice no DC movies for the next 10 years to end this shit. To be honest with you. And I liked the first Shazam. I did. But I am so sick of the Snyder hose. I am so tired of them that I just want it to die and go away. Like, it is just done and over with. Don't care. Like, I have zero interest in seeing this movie till it comes out on Vudu or whatever. Maybe even HBO Max. I don't know. I might have enough interest. Just because of Midnights, I just own Helen Mirren. I may watch it on video on demand. But other than that, I'd wait for HBO Max for this one. That's how my interest is at this point. I don't care. The only reason I'm going to see Flash is just because everybody's going to probably go see Flash. That's it. I really don't care otherwise. At this point, I'm done.
Okay, well, set aside Snyder. Let's just
can say that, Dr. Coffin Nails, but it's still the Snyderverse. That's why I don't understand why these Snyder rights are freaking out still. You've had the Snyderverse all this time. Nothing has changed. It's still the same crap. But
set Snyder aside for a moment.
Yeah, all that being aside, I don't care.
Yeah, because honestly, and it was pointed out in the chat. And again, I see you guys. But it's wow, that was my Frost moment right there. Anyway,
no, I do know some great Snyder fans. I'm not going to say they're all assholes. It's a section of them.
Well, and again, let's to be fair, this isn't the last of this stuff, because we got 2 more of these coming, and they are looking bad.
Wonder Woman. Aquaman is going to turn out dismal.
Oh.
Flash is the only one they have a chance with, just because of Michael Keaton and Michael Keaton alone.
Yeah, but okay, so they get a good weekend, right? That first weekend, I think we've seen this pattern, right? It's a blowout weekend up front. Everybody that doesn't want to miss out or to have spoilers is going to go see that film, and then depending upon word of mouth, because really right now I think, and this is my theory, not anybody else's on this panel, although they're they can agree with me if they'd like to, but I think that word of mouth is more important now than it's been in a very long time. I think people are watching people like Tom and Andre. They listen to Script. They listen to Chris Gore. They listen to Latino Slant. They listen to Pauly. They listen to a lot of people talking about these films. Obviously WDW Pro and Valiant Renegade, many others. And I think that people are taking those opinions into account before putting money down on a ticket. I think that's also holding up opening box offices. I think it's only the super fans that are going to that front-loaded aspect of these things. That's it. I mean, outside of the big opening, Ant-Man Quantumania was even a bigger failure. But I don't know. Maybe that's just my theory. I
can't wait till Flash just so I can laugh when people start to realize, oh shit, this is just Man of Steel all over again, but with a chick.
And a guy that runs fast. Yes, I mean, you're not wrong. The YouTube sphere, the internet sphere of independent commentators do a better job advertising these movies than the advertisers do.
True.
And that's it. That's why word of mouth is far more important. Again, like 40 years ago, word of mouth was really just an add-on to a good marketing campaign. It's like, oh, we got this great marketing campaign. Everybody knows it's coming and is excited for it. And we don't have to spend so much on it because once we hit those first few trailers, we put them into a decent news cycle. All the gaps between those broadcasts are going to be occupied by people just sharing their thoughts about this upcoming movie. Now we don't really have that. We have like a teaser for the trailer. And then on top of that, inside the trailer, you got a teaser of a joke in the trailer at the beginning of the trailer. It basically shows they have no competency or confidence in regards to how they market the very thing they're being paid to. And what does it happen to us? Like, well, you take a look at our videos, our thumbnails, our articles, what have you, where there are far more clever, more interesting lures in there for people to click, read, watch, listen, and gauge their the commentators' opinions to see if they themselves want to take a chance on this movie. The only thing that kind of hurts is that rarely do the positive reviews gain as much traction, but I think it has more to do with the platforms with which we use as opposed to the actual content in those videos.
See, I mean, I always like to solicit the chat. I mean, do you want me to go see Shazam? I haven't had anybody answer positively on my own channel, so I'm like, I don't think that you're going to get a lot of reviews on this. You're going to get some diehard folks. I don't know, Tom, are you going to review this? Script, are you going to review this?
Shazam, I just said I'm not even going to watch it.
You're not even going to watch it. Okay,
I'll watch it.
Oh,
yeah. So I'll watch it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So, all right. Yeah, I just.
Well, but while doing it, I'll be wishing I was watching Dungeons and Dragons instead, probably.
Andre, I don't know how you can be so high on that film.
Well, maybe I just thought it looked kind of like.
It does.
Does anybody know how to get tickets for that this weekend or whatever?
For what, Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a preview thing through Amazon. I can't figure out how to get it.
Really?
There's a preview in Norway next week, but I can't
Maybe
go
it's
because
next week, it's the same thing.
Because we're having Chuck Dixon on at the time that screening is on. So yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that. I can see if I can reschedule.
No. But, I think that.
Oh, I guess Six says it might only be in LA. It was one of those Amazon things. I'm not so sure because I thought I did the one before, and I thought I went straight through Amazon to do it, but because I also did the Jumanji thing in another movie before. I'm trying to remember which one it was I went to see. But anyway,
with Jumanji?
No, I didn't see Jumanji. I saw the other one, but they've done this before where they've done these early preview screenings through Amazon Prime.
All right, yeah. I see.
And so they're doing the same thing for Dungeons and Dragons, but Six might be right. It might only be in LA. I'd have to look because I was trying to find it, but anyway. Because apparently it's been getting pretty good reviews, so I was like, fuck it, we'll see it early if not. But let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, Andrew.
But like early reviews and pre-screenings might not mean much. We shall see.
Yeah. So let's see what the chat's talking about. Cal Miles says, I want Last of Us Season 2 to how Cuckman's abnormal mindset and prove he is a thing for trans people. Abby's not a real woman. I think what he's trying to say is he wants to see them go ahead and do Season 2 and see how it really turns out. Yeah, that's plausibility. Sounds like that's the plan. Ashercom says, should we hold a service for Bart the Bear, Hollywood legend? He left his mark on cultural fabric of this country. Cocaine Bear should honor him. Yeah, I remember Bart the Bear. He passed away a long time ago, didn't he? But it's not like the Cocaine Bear in the movie's a real bear. It's all CGI. It's a guy in a suit. It was CGI'd over.
There was quite a bit of practical mixed with CGI and stuff. It was
not much of the bear though.
It was. I liked it.
I liked it too, but at no time was that bear a real bear culture. It was CGI.
No. I was not suggesting that. I'm just saying it was very well done. So.
I do know they had a guy a la Andy Serkis, like in a pajama green screen suit thingy or whatever, in there standing in for the bear in a lot of scenes. That I know. So yeah. Mario Trillo says, so the thing with Kang got me thinking. Marvel skipped the time travel theme. One movie does not count. Kang whole character about time travel. What the fuck?
Well, he's not just time travel. He's also universe hopping. Let's get it right here. So timeline traveling, moving from one to the other. Yeah, that's a character that is challenging to pull off, and I will say, from everything I've seen so far, I think they've blown it. And I think they'll continue to do so. But, yeah, culture script. What say you? Do you think that Kang, if handled correctly, can that salvage this entire phase of the MCU?
Sure. Kang is actually a very formidable villain in the comic books. You have a guy who knows the future, essentially. I mean, the other part too, he has time travel abilities. So he could go back in time, and every time he fails, he can just go back again and correct it and keep doing it over and over again. And I would say tell the story of him where he's done that maybe 100 or 1,000 times, kind of like Edge of Tomorrow. And for some reason, the Avengers, every advantage they try to take ends up blowing back in their face until like the very end, in which case they defeat Kang, but in a way that he can't actually time travel back again. Because that's essentially what you got. You got a villain that can beat Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow, and the Avengers are the heroes trying to stop him. And you could have a very thrilling movie with that, but there's no one at Marvel that we know of right now who could execute such an interesting story to get us engaged and entertained.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the 2 engagements we've had with him so far have pointed out that he's an easily defeated foe. So he's not particularly brilliant or any of those other things. And again, I mean, you're right, Script. He could be continually learning from his experiences, but I think the way the most recent film presented him, they just wanted to rush to introduce us to all these other iterations of Kang.
They do, and I mean, they actually had an interesting setup as a result of Endgame, which is that Captain America doesn't return. And one of these stories of Kang is that he loses his wife and he loses his ability to rule Earth in the very, very distant future. And as he analyzes the timeline, he finds the anomaly, which is that, oh, Captain America didn't come back to the present after dropping off the Infinity Stones. And then he could be just trying to change that, and in effort doing that causes conflict with the event. There's so many better story options they could have gone with. The multiverse, I think, is a bad choice, and the fact that they introduced it with Endgame didn't help either. So
no, they really should have stuck with their original plan and had a cosmic manager and a.
Well, they fired that guy, so
I know. Yeah, I know the bigger story, but yeah, it's just nuts.
I just want to highlight one comment here because Pat Finch speaks wise words here, saying, I want the Serpent God Set as the main antagonist of the MCU, do the Atlantis attack as the Serpent Crown saga. Yes, that would have been a far, far better direction to go. Absolutely. It's a relatively obscure thing from the comics. It was a storyline that was told across the annuals of like 1990 or 1991, even has a Conan connection. So, yeah, and I agree, that would be a far stronger storyline to go with than what they seem to be doing. I agree with Script that Kang, if they were to like take that approach, the live, die, repeat approach, then that would be something. But the way that they have been doing it, taking the Rick and Morty approach, I don't see it working.
Just the rain got in my shoes.
And then William Sleeper says for $4.99, has anyone put 2 + 2 together? Perlmutter's last bit of influence on the MCU and Feige ended with Endgame when it started pre-production. Actually, his influence was over before then. He was out in conjunction with Captain America Civil War. That's when he was out, and then his presence would have been felt in the movies after that. But where he was really gone, you can totally tell, was Captain Marvel. That's the movie where Perlmutter absolutely was gone. So yeah, someone has done that math before. Swift, Culture, anything to add to that?
Nope, that's pretty accurate. It started with Favreau with Iron Man 2, and then then they stopped bringing in named directors after Avengers. And then Perlmutter Perlmutter still has a controlling interest in Marvel overall, but he is just not allowed to dictate how the movies and media are going right now because I don't think he's sold any of his ownership of that company, but he's probably really upset with how it's being handled. And yeah, Feige diverted his attention to all the Disney Plus shows just after Endgame, if I'm not mistaken. But he's still considered the the executive producer of all those films because he is producing them. He just doesn't he's just delegated some of those responsibilities to other people in Marvel production office.
Yeah. And then moving on from there, I just have to scroll back to the top here. Israel Firi says for 99 South African runs, are we just in denial? As long as Star Wars is under Disney, it will not be good. Anything to say to that? I don't think anyone is in denial. It's not going to be any good as long as the people currently managing the brand are there.
I mean, there's probably a few people who are holding out hope that something will change, something that will be good out of it. I mean, Mandalorian was a nice little lark for a while there, whatever you want to call it. But
it was a good distraction, but
yeah, it was a nice distraction or whatever. But
the pattern speaks for itself right now, and until something changes that pattern, there's not much we can really do.
Yeah. We are losing the script doctor here soon.
Oh no.
Yes.
I don't think we have any that are specifically super chats directed at you. I'm double checking here real quick. But you do have a Patreon and a YouTube channel. Did you want to plug those real quick on your way out the door?
Yeah, sure. On my Patreon, I just dropped my review of Animal Crackers. It was quite enjoyable to watch that again. I haven't seen it in many years. And I also dropped a 90-minute conversation I had with Robert Myburnett about fraudulent creators, and both of those are at the any tier level. So if you're interested, please feel free to check that out. And yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I've been very busy the last couple weeks, so I haven't done anything on it other than drop a couple of shorts. But for the time being, I might be able to procure something out soon. But yeah, if that is something that interests you, where you get writing tips, reviews, and cool little essays and conversations with some people, yeah, feel free to swing on over and sign up. There's a number of free articles for you to read to get a sense of what the type of content it is. And if that's something you enjoy, I appreciate your support.
Awesome sauce. Well, thank you for being here, Script, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. Have a great show, everybody. Stick around, chat. It's gonna get great as we proceed. So on.
Oh, we got more super chats. Yes, we do.
Thanks, Script.
Take care, buddy. All right, let's go back to where we were in the super chats. Waltman says, so the co-creator of T-Lou didn't care about the criticism of the second game and is still going to do the plot points from that game. Yeah, this was what I was referring to earlier when it was brought up. That sounds like he's still going to go through with this, whatever.
Yeah, it is. It's not going to go in a great direction. They are not going to deviate from their course. The thing that drove the gamers away from this game, and all of the leaks that turned out to be true, and then all the subsequent baloney sausage that happened on YouTube and other platforms that created a lot of bad blood, yeah, they're still going to go down that same road. At least for now, although I can almost guarantee it the way that they're headed. And they've really kind of emasculated Joel along the way based on the characterizations of all the reviews that have been coming out about the first season of the show. I've remained just completely indifferent to the existence of this property at this point. So,
well, I feel bad for anybody who's like really invested in it if it ends up going downhill fast. So,
yeah. And again, I mean, I if people are enjoying it, I'm glad. If you didn't play the game, great. Just be prepared for substantial shock in season 2.
I think at this point, not having played the game, if anything, is an advantage, because that way you don't have anything to compare it to.
That's right.
Yeah. And then you may be able to appreciate like the direction that they're taking on its own, for its own thing, without comparing to obviously far more elaborate gameplay storytelling.
There you go. I have very little to nothing to say about T. Louis. Matros sends in 20, that's Swedish krona.
That is franchise Swedish krona.
Dead franchise crossovers coming. Mando versus Predator. That actually could be interesting.
That'd be actually very cool. And they're both in space anyway, so it's who is to say that the Predator race isn't from a galaxy far, far away?
You know what I want to see? I want to see Kevin McAllister versus the Predator.
There you go. Home Alone, Predator Alone.
This is my house and I have to defend it.
Home Predator.
Folks targeting any males of any race.
Yeah.
And I want to see that kid from Home Alone. What's his face again?
Macaulay Culkin as the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. As the Joker. That'd be perfect.
He could actually do the Joker, honestly.
Black, whatever, Asian.
70s rock fans in the house says everything in Disney Star Wars is leading up to a rewrite and retcon of the original trilogy. I don't know about that. I'd like to think that's the case, but
I mean that's how I look at it, especially since
I think even Favreau recently kind of. I don't think he flat out denied it, but he kind of.
Well, he's going to have to, because whether he secretly wants to deviate from it or he genuinely wants to go to the sequel trilogy at this point publicly, he has no other choice, because Kennedy would swat him down if he said or did anything to indicate that he was doing anything other than leading up to her masterpiece, the sequel trilogy, all about Rey, right? So if there even is a plan to do something subverting, let's say, we're not going to hear that for as long as Captain or Queen Kathy is set to ship in her blue glory.
Well, I want to add this to that, and that is everything so far in this season of Mando, including the most recent episode from this morning, last night, whatever time you watched it, if you watched it at all, is heading directly into the sequel trilogy. It's going to fit in quite nicely, as a matter of fact. There's specifically a scene that calls to that in the Senate chamber, so just be prepared.
It's not really like that because, well...
Yeah, so you better hope that Kennedy leaves quickly, because there ain't not going to be any subversion anytime soon, as long as that captain is still running that ship.
Yeah, Das Wolfen has been a member for 15 months, thank you. And then incompetent, unemployed Alex Kurtzman is gone. On that note, says, did John saying all roads lead to the sequels tank this? No, I just think, that's not going to help with some people, but it's, as far as the grand scheme of things, just disinterest set in. Again, I have to admit that Gina Carano may have played a bigger role into this than I first thought, or many thought, but at the end of the day, I think the bigger issue was A, the gap between the shows, and B, the Obi-Wan Kenobi being a bomb. Because that was the Picard moment right there.
You summed up the culture.
The only thing I was going to say is, in the previous Super Chats, noting that we were addressing the sequel trilogy, not the original trilogy, which is how that member chat was structured from Seventies Rock Fan. And I'm going to say this: even Disney's not fool enough to do that anytime soon. Will they likely do it? Probably.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they can. And I think that's also the same thing that has them written into a corner with the sequel trilogy.
It's quite possible that they, under whatever the agreement was they signed with George, that they would not be allowed to remake those films.
And I think there's some validity to that. Otherwise, I say, what is stopping Disney from releasing the unaltered original trilogy? That's the only thing that could be. Because otherwise, that would just print money. You think Disney gives a crap about George's special edition? No. So if they could, I'm sure they would. But yeah, no. I don't think that had as much of an effect as just all the other.
I think the two of you summed it up completely right there. Gina Carano was a load-bearing pillar. When she was thrown away, the whole structure collapsed. They had to discard the plan they had and come up with a new one, helped by marketing that they said, hey, bring back the baby for season 3. I mean, that really did a number on it. And what also made things all the worse was the gap between seasons, and even worse still, all the Picard moments in between.
All of them are
and to make people give up on the brand. And after all of that suffering that people had to go through, what's left of the excitement from the season 2 finale? It's all evaporated. They lost all the goodwill. They lost all that goodwill already with the Gina Carano firing. Then they were back to neutral ground, and then that was eradicated under them by all of the lackluster other Star Wars shows.
And that's what's going on.
Yeah. And then Lord Trimmon says apathy is taking hold, but I have to hope Star Wars can be saved. I'm confident that bad elements are on the way out, and the franchise needs its own Hogwarts Legacy to triple revival. Well, really, The Mandalorian was kind of that moment that you're talking about, and Unfortunately, that's JPEG's folly, and I will stand by that. He reinserted Kathleen Kennedy into this whole situation where that was the one move Bob Iger
the reason why they turn a blind eye
that made sense, is when shit was starting to hit the fan, especially after Solo. He's like, all right, time out. We can't be doing this anymore, Kathy. Get the fuck out of the way, kind of thing, and put John in place. And yeah, it wasn't until JPEG turned around and said, you know, Kathy, you should be messing around with this blood and bones thing, because Lucasfilm is, as Andre pointed out earlier, Lucasfilm is Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Willow. That's it. Not anything else. Go back and concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing. That's the moment shit hit the fan. And it can all be kind of just traced back to that, sadly. So it could happen. I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, but here's the thing between Star Wars and Harry Potter. Harry Potter hasn't had a Star Wars moment. It hasn't had 3 movies that have really killed the franchise. Yes, they had the Fantastic Beasts films, but those aren't nearly as attached to Harry Potter as the Star Wars sequels were to the other Star Wars films, right? Like, it'd been different had they come out with, what was it, The Cursed Child, or whatever the hell that play is. If they'd done that instead of Fantastic Beasts and that had flopped or something like that, then we'd be having a little bit different conversation, I think. But no, you never know. Star Wars could do some really cool open world game that people really get into. I mean, some of the gaming aspects of Star Wars are still fan-friendly, I guess is a good way of putting it, but not all of them.
They still show the viability of the property.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the second Battleground was the best ever. Having EA involved in that was a problem. But, I mean, you have to remember, Lucasfilm was a game studio for a long period of time as well, and they never should have shut that down. LucasArts should have never shut down. They would have been much better off being a game studio. That is a very lucrative business in and of itself, rather than licensing out the IP.
Well, that was stupid when Disney did that, because they could have used that for Disney properties too. They had their own game studio then, which was just moronic.
Again, we were watching all of that evaporate. What, in 2018, 2019, we're starting to see the mid-level media-centric game studios get shut down. So, and I think that continued through 2020. Global crisis hit. 2021, we're still.
Well, because George was smart enough to know that the technologies were in tandem, right? And he would flat out say that this technology they're using right now in video gaming is going to help us make movies in 10 years, right? And he was 100% correct.
Yeah, I mean, like with games that he released, like Grim Fandango and things like that. I mean, it really did push the ball forward. Every time he did a new game, even like the Star Wars stuff that he put on Nintendo and all that, those games really did move everything forward. Unfortunately,
what I'm saying, Lord Trinan, is right now without the right creative people in place there, I just don't see it happening unless some gamer, game developer gets lucky, like with EA, and they get a good idea and it actually comes together. Hogwarts Legacy is like a rarity. Not only that, Hogwarts Legacy also had the beauty of a campaign behind it from people who are just like, we don't care about this other shit that y'all are trying to say. You're telling me not to buy it? Well, that makes me want to buy it even more.
Well, I mean,
we're going to talk about that Friday, actually, funnily enough.
The minute you introduce the support woke ideology, neo-Marxism conversation into something, you're going to get a huge portion of the audience that's going to hold up their middle finger and support the hell out of it. So
we'll actually revisit this on Friday, right, Andre?
Oh, sweet.
We do indeed. We do indeed. We have a special guest coming on Friday, so we'll be revisiting this theme then.
Yes, the individual who was fired over being excited over Hogwarts Legacy. Carolyn will be here. She's been on Toxic Femme a couple times, but we're going to have her here. We're going to talk to her directly about everything she experienced, what happened, all that stuff, and so much more. So do tune in Friday as well to find out the scoop on all that business. So Master Clockwork says, not seen Mando Season 3, Episode 3, but what drove me nuts about Episode 2 is it was near non-stop exposition, almost explosion, exposition dump. Having both Din and Bo-Katan talk to Grogu was dumb. I saw a real short clip of the Bo-Katan talking to Grogu. I'm like, oh.
You think that's bad? Wait till you see the new episode.
Exposition. You're really selling me on Season 3 here, because I also only saw the first episode and I was like, this was boring, but I really have to watch the second one. I just didn't have time, and same with this one. And at this point, I don't even know that I'm going to catch up.
Yeah, and it's, and somebody in the chat just pointed out this episode 2 of Season 3 was like, hey, go get that pencil over there. Well, it's right there. You can get it yourself. No, go get that pencil. So go get the pencil. Then you have to travel back with the pencil. It's like, I need the paper too. It was like, oh my god, really? It was bad. I hate it. Side Quest City, not a fan.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just,
you know what? Actually, it's a game grind. That's what this is. That's what we've been given. We are grinding through a game to try to get to the end game. Could you please, fill something in? Give me something substantial. Please.